Okay. So, well, over the course of 4 years since the liberation of the Blood Rock prison, which it was eventually renamed Blood Rhyme, and have you guys all read over the outline of the time off?
Yeah.
Yes.
Timeline,
Yep.
yeah.
I think so.
Well, in this period of time, Blood Rhyme, as it's now called, has slowly come into its own, as well as Port Liberty. Um, uh, Starting with tents and lean-tos, eventually growing into more permanent structures, wooden, and a handful of stone. Businesses started to open up, and at first it was easy to say who could and couldn't come to the island. But as it grew, it became a little harder to police every single ship that came into port because it was a great stopping spot between the east and the west. And the same goes for Port Liberty. Um, so, just out of curiosity, I mean, most of this is being. I mean, Lewinthorn was the only character that was pretty much there for the entire game. What kind of how would you handle people coming and going?
How would Lewinthron handle people coming and going to Bloodrime?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he would be pretty flexible with people coming to the port, depending on the flags or the colors that they fly on their way in. He would not take kindly to somebody flying in under false colors, and probably word of that probably kind of spreads a bit. But as long as somebody's coming there and they don't really seem to have any like openly hostile intention, he knows that the Islanders need to trade. More specifically, if anybody wants to come and visit him at the fort, he would welcome people who call upon him. But he's just he always tries to scrutinize people when he meets with them in person. So he's just smart enough to not put himself in a position where he could personally come to harm. But if it's talking about just people coming to the island and they seem like they have a reason to be there that doesn't hold a lot of intent, negative intent for the Islanders or the people of Bloodrime, then he's not opposed to it.
Okay.
Cool.
That's good to know. So, for the most part, there's been no major issues. No militaries have flown their flags this way, mostly due to the war that has been in full swing to the west. Of course, word has spread throughout travelers about Lamgardia's feelings towards Blood Rime, as it's now called, which obviously they're not too pleased about the place, but they just don't have the resources to come and take the place back, especially considering it's fairly well and easily defensible for the most part, besides the south docks, which you guys have just recently built.
Would we have at some point dealt with the way that we got in the first time and I don't know, plugged the well or something like that?
Turned it into storage or fortified it.
I think that Luther's actually, or Jared's kind of talked to me about that a little bit. But right now, the caverns underneath the prison are actually inhabited by the Sasquatches.
Okay,
they live there, and it would have been pretty easy to close off the cave entrance. But regardless, it's being guarded by two guys that just want to have their own privacy. And for the most part, they live down there. Occasionally, come to the top, and they have been seen throughout the town and in the wood the palm jungles around the island. Okay, so it is the second month of the year of 06 Varga. It's cold for the most part, but regardless, during the day, a warm breeze blows across the island, and it is standard early of the year weather for what is basically the equivalent of the Pacific Ocean. It's a little bit chilly, but not too bad. The night before, there was a lot of commotion. Over the last 4 years, a handful of people have actually turned up missing. And it turns out that on the island, there was a predator, a human predator, a serial killer going around preying on some of the weaker citizens of the city. There wasn't much that could be done at first. Any attempt to find this person failed until Patience came back from her journeys. Setting out over the last week or so, Patience, you were able to track down and find find out who is causing these murders. And in fact, you caught him in the midst of another attack on a young woman named, let's see here, I got it right here. Tracking him down, you found them in the painted rocks, which you'll find on the map. In the midst of one of his attacks, you found a man named Blisk. He's spent most of his time in between Port Liberty and Bloodrime. Using your tracking skills and going out into the woods, you found him in the midst of let's see, what is her name? Maris is the girl's name. Catching him in the midst of this, as he had his dagger up, you were able to shoot it out of his hand, hog tie him, capture him, and bring him back to the town. And all of this happened yesterday and last night. So for the overnight, Blisk was held in the prison, and I mean, it was obvious that he was the one that was causing these attacks. In fact, there were 4 of them over the course of the years. This would have been the 5th one. Murders, 2 of them were rapes. This guy was a pretty terrible person. There were a few reported in Port Liberty as well.
Jeez.
So there was a lot of commotion in town as everybody was, it was shocking. There is crime here in town, but for the most part, nothing like this has actually happened. And you went to bed tired last night, Patience, worn out from your trek, probably just enough energy to wash off the sweat and grime from your travels through the island to find this guy, and you fall into a deep sleep. You get comfortable in your bed. Would you stay in Fort Bloodrime, or would you stay at the inn or another house somewhere in town?
She would probably have a hut outside of town, close as she can get to wildlife on the island. I don't think she's still comfortable sleeping in towns. She's traveled for so long; it's just kind of unnatural for her to stay near a lot of people. And she's still pretty suspicious of all people, especially now what she knows about what happens to her kind. And from the traveling, she's gotten even more kind of cautious. And while she trusts her old companions, she doesn't trust really much else.
And that's probably made a little bit worse by how many people appreciated what Patience did when she brought this guy tied into town and threw him before the feet of a couple of Lutherans men. Everybody was shocked by it, and probably way too much commotion and way too many claps on the back for you. As you went back to your hut that night and fell into this deep sleep, tired, sweaty, it pulls you right into your pillow. And the darkness, you feel like you float through it for a brief moment. And as you do so, you feel yourself cold. Like you feel a chill go over your entire body. You're not in the warmth of your blankets anymore. And as you open your eyes, you're confused for a second. Surrounding you is, and you don't know how to explain how there are stars above you and stars below you as you stand on this massive chunk of what feels like and looks like volcanic soil floating in the midst of nothing, ether. You realize that you're having a nightmare. The stars have a strange red hue to them all around you, and you feel a deep, dark fear come over you, wash down all the way to your bones. I want you to go ahead and roll a will save for me.
Okay. Will save. Where's Will? There it is. A 14, and just let me make sure I don't add anything onto there. Text. I'm still getting used to all of my new stuff. Is this a divination effect?
Nope, it is not a divination effect.
Okay, then I don't add a +1. Boo. Okay.
Okay.
A 14.
You are shaken now as you look around and see this strange dark void in front of you floating around. Swirling above you and below you, like I said, there are stars. On the strange black volcanic pumice that you stand on, black crystals shine in the glimmering starlight around you. Your steps make a strange echoing noise as you stand there, your feet grating into the soil. Floating around you are these small particles of the rock itself. You feel light, almost as if there's hardly any gravity around you, and that's where you're at.
Gotta zoom out. There we go. All right, that's disconcerting. So is that gravel she's standing on, or is she in the water?
That is black volcanic soil almost, and it's floating in this void.
Oh.
If you
Patience?
look closer, you can see that these are like stars all around you.
Oh,
A
okay.
red light shining off of you and off of the black crystals.
Jeez. All right. Patience is gonna check her body to see if she has like any of her like probably maybe just dagger on her, and see if McCheesus is in his little cage attached at her hip at all times. Or if
McCheesus
she's by
is.
herself.
As you look down, McCheesus is in his cage. He looks frightened, scared, and almost ephemeral. As you look at him, he looks almost see-through, transparent. As his hands are up against the cage, looking out. Your dagger is at your side, and you have your bow as well.
She's gonna pull out her bow, and it's gonna be her short bow, like a posite one, and she's gonna look around and see what she can see. She's obviously scared, but at least she has the solidness of her own weapon, so she doesn't feel completely helpless.
Okay, feel free to move.
I'm gonna do perception. That's an 18.
Okay, yeah, looking
1,
around you.
2, 3.
Yep, looking around you, you see other specks through this strange star-clouded atmosphere, and you realize there's more hunks of this weird black soil floating in chunks around you, just orbiting in a like free form. I mean, Patience has never been in space, probably doesn't have much of a concept of space, but that's exactly what it looks
No.
like as you're standing in these weird floating ruins. Deep below, you see things sparkling, other debris floating around. You see off to your right, floating through one of these clouds, you see pieces of a skeleton, a cracked skull, bones floating with scraps of cloth still attached to them as they just hang.
Jeez. All right, she's going to shoot an arrow into the red sky below her to see what happens.
Okay, you get a sense of vertigo as you look down into this nothing. It's the same up as it is down to your left, your right. You take a shot, and as you shoot your arrow, it goes quickly at first, and then it almost seems to slow down a little bit as it goes through this, but at that same way, it seems to go on forever and disappears from your view as it just disappears.
Jeez. All right.
And just as you do that, that's when you hear a piercing shriek echo through the strange void. The fear that gripped you when you first came here, it's magnified tenfold. All right, just give me 1 sec.
I'm assuming she has her bag on her, or her like pouch on her waist.
You can have everything that you have. Okay, the shriek pierces through the atmosphere. You feel this deep horror go into your bones, and I want you to roll Nish as you just feel the urge to get the hell away. All right, top of the Nish. All right. Did you see anything, Patience? Okay, yeah, you can vaguely see some stuff.
Yeah, I can see some things.
Floating in the void, you see these strange black shapes above and below the floating islands in this strange void. Their entire bodies are almost see-through. You can see the stars on the other side of them. Their eyes glow red in the light, and they move with strange shadow-like swords in their hands. You sense deep fear inside of you as you see them float around you.
Now, I did take my potion earlier that gives me a +2 on fear saves. Am I able to not be afraid?
You can roll if a fear effect happens, but I mean, regardless, you're not afraid enough. I mean, there's no effect of it, but I mean, there's no magical fear on you right now, but it's definitely a fearsome sight.
Okay.
Okay. Just tell me when you're done, guys.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, he'll move over here.
One. Is it up to me? It looks like. 1 sec.
Is that yeah, let me see. Honestly, man, I don't see your names next to these menus.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Right.
So, no.
Taking a look around. Okay, he sees what he sees, and then. All right.
Strange.
That's it for me.
Okay. All right. There you go.
I feel her presence.
Also, are these like either magical beast or evil outsiders?
They're neither.
Okay.
As you look at them, they almost look like ghosts.
Boo.
You hear a malevolent voice in the distance say, "I hunger." And I'm done.
All right, Patience, it's your turn.
All right. Patience is gonna move 1, 2, 3, and for the one right here, she's gonna use her first witch spell that you guys get to see.
Nice.
She's gonna use Burning Hands.
Sweet. Okay. So roll that reflex save.
How do I do that?
No, they do it.
Oh, they do it. Okay.
You basically make a cone. So what does it look like,
Awesome.
Patience? It's your first description of a spell.
She basically just slides her bow up on her arm, not even really letting go of it, and with one hand, using that bow kind of like as if she were bracing that hand, palm up, she pushes it in front of her, and all of the fear she is having, she is channeling it into anger and rage and focusing that to come out as fire to burn away what would possibly harm her.
Okay. So the flames lick across this strange black thing. It definitely seems to affect it as it burns against it. But it seems like the force of this creature is powerful, and it doesn't burn it away as much as you thought it would.
Okay.
All right. Is that your turn, Patience?
That's all she can really do. Yeah, that's all she can really do.
All right. Okay. So you got a description for me, Ely? You just want me to go for it?
Found one. I'm just gonna reach out and try to touch her on the shoulder.
That's a
All right.
24. That definitely hits me.
Yeah. Okay. As this thing's skeletal, ghost-like hand reaches out and touches you, you feel your soul being sapped from you. Your essence is pulled as this thing hungers for you, and it feels like your entire body is losing all of its strength and becomes colder than it already is.
Jesus.
All right. Next.
Key. The key. The Scarlet King has his opening,
What?
and he'll fly over to here and reach out with his sword and touch you with its flat.
Jesus. Fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this-
you hit me.
Damn.
So that's 5 damage so far. Poop monkeys.
5 damage and 2 con. Okay, you feel even more of your soul being pulled from you.
God damn it.
All right.
You see one of the figures just like an arrow through the sky with this spectral blade forward, just flies straight for you. You're probably somewhat distracted by the others around you, and he just utters and whispers on his way and says, "Yeah, we will ride the black winds across Sagardis, yes." As his blade also seeks your flesh.
God damn it.
Another
Why
24.
are they all rolling 24s?
Damn, what the fuck?
That's
I
bizarre.
hate you all. Okay.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and roll that con
Yeah,
for
roll
that too.
my con. That'll be. I like that you've been rolling ones. That makes me happy. Well, that's not a 1. Well, a -5 con. Awesome.
All right.
Woohoo!
All right. Brad, I believe that's you.
Yep. This one charges forward and says, she will fill the font of eternity. There's a +2 on this attack.
Thank you all.
21.
Still hits, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that definitely hits her touch AC. All right. And
I fixed the con drain on it.
Nice. Okay. So you were down
Awesome. That's
8 con.
8 con, and then 37 HP. I've got 2 con. Woo!
Damn.
Okay.
That probably drops your hit point pool dramatically too.
It does.
I don't know how it does that, but probably yes.
For every 2 points of con drain, you lose 1 hit point per level.
1 point per level. I don't understand.
The
honestly,
maximum goes down 6 hit points every 2 con points you lose.
Yeah, so like not to get too specific because I can see your character sheet here. At this last one charges up and says this about the font of eternity. It places its hands on you. Everything starts to go black as you feel yourself dying. You look up at all these things standing over you, their swords stretched towards you, touching you, sapping your energy. You feel your own soul being pulled from your body as laying on this black crystal obelisk, you fall flat, and the last thing you see as you blink one last time is them staring at you with no emotions, no feelings, and everything goes dark.
Can you pull up the picture of these things? They're pretty awesome looking.
Yeah.
You can actually switch your profile picture to them in your the bottom of the chat.
Neat.
All right. So. Yeah.
I posted it in Discord if nothing else.
Thanks for hitting me, guys.
If that's
Appreciate
easier.
my
It's the least we can do. No need to thank us.
Oh my gosh.
I think you guys all did a good job being creepy. I thought that was pretty good.
I mean, you guys did a really good job being creepy. She
Yep.
was thoroughly not enjoying anything of this.
Okay. And you know what they say: when you die in your dreams, you wake up with a start in your hut. Morning light is just filtering over the horizon. You're sweatier than you were when you went to sleep, and I don't know. Do you gasp? Do you do anything? It's pretty scary, but you're not dead anymore.
She does kind of. She inhales very deeply, so it is like a gasp, but she's like holding her breath once it comes in, so it's not like a full sound. And she's kind of clutching her throat. With the other hand, like clutching, I guess, the blankets, like just really having a death grip on there. She sits bolt upright and basically frantically looks around. She's treated many people near death. She's seen people die on her travels, especially as she has, been basically a wandering healer for a while / witch, and it felt real. It felt like she was done. That was it. She looks over her body for any marks to see if there's anything that remained. She's not completely untouched by the magical realm, so she wonders if this is just a dream or a warning.
You still feel aches from where they touched you, but there's no visible signs of pain. As you look over, do you keep McCheesus in a cage?
McCheesus does sit in a cage basically right next to her, either on the bedpost or on her waist. Basically because otherwise he'll go and try to eat inedible things and possibly people without permission.
He's going nuts in his cage, running around in circles, sending chips and grass up into the air. He's running in circles around this.
She lets out the breath she was holding and goes over to McCheesus and undoes his cage, hands out, awaiting him to scamper up onto her. To comfort him and to also comfort herself. She is still quite shaken. And while she sees no outward wounds, she can't be sure that something didn't actually hurt her soul, because it felt like her whole soul was being ripped out.
Okay. And as you do so, off in the distance, you hear the bells from the village ringing. You know that this is a sign that the execution of the prisoner or the judgment is to come.
She'll give McJesus a rub on the head and actual food instead of garbage, which is what he wants to eat, and she is not letting him.
He's on a diet.
He's on a food diet. She wants to give him food. He likes to eat inedible things. I'm pretty sure he has pica, but she gives him a good pet, calms him down, and will go and from a distance watch the execution. As much as she doesn't like people, she wants to be around things that are alive. Maybe convince herself she too is alive.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to cut from this scene right now. After that, just give me 2 minutes to set up the next one, and we're gonna jump right into it.
Alrighty. And do I get my con back now or no?
Yeah, you get everything back.
Okay.
You're still dead.
I'm still dead. I have no con.
You look, see your body laying there, which is why McJesus is breaking out.
Yeah, I'm just astral projecting to my spirit.
So, Lutheran, last night this guy was brought in. This mystery that's been plaguing the island for quite a few years has finally come to a resolution. The last victim was saved by Patience. She brought him bound to the village. Your men brought him to you. How would you have spent last night knowing that this guy was going to be judged the next day?
That's a great question. I think. And did you say his intended victim from last night was also brought?
Yep, she was alive. She was bruised and battered, but not much more than that.
Yeah, I would have visited her for sure, and just expressed my, while I clearly do nothing that implies that I'm responsible in any way, but I let her know that I'm glad she's okay and kind of say all the right things in the moment, as a good bardish leader would. But that's, and then I probably, he's.
And just so you know, the girl's name is Maris. She's a pretty girl, probably 1920 human girl. As much as a village girl as someone could be here on Blood Rhyme. She's been here for a few years. She helps with the farming and the gardening here, and she's a staple of the people. She's just as happy as you are that she was not horribly murdered. But she is a little shocked, of course.
And did you say did Patience actually catch the dude actively in the act?
Yeah.
Patience shot the weapon out of his hand when he noticed Patience was in the bushes near the painted rocks coming up on his trail. He tried to rush and end it because he knew it was over for him, and she was able to stop it.
So kind of threading the needle when he talks to this Mara's girl of in no way putting her through the trauma again, and in no way, making her feel uncomfortable. He basically, and not at all because he doubts Patience's word, but he basically subtly tries to make sure that the girl is convinced that the guy we have, fingered for this crime, really is the right guy.
He's caused problems before. He's been in nearly fatal fights with people before. He's a brute. He comes and goes from the islands. And once he's brought back and Patience gives us evidence that he was doing it, obviously you trust her. It makes sense with some of the murders that happened on Port Liberty, as well as the ones that happened here. The timeline fits for when he was in port and when he was gone.
Yep, got it.
It just seems it all kind of falls into place.
Luithrin has literally no doubt about Patience or her word. He's more trying to get the girl, again, not in any way, damaging to her psyche, but trying to avoid getting to tomorrow when he knows he's going to have to execute this guy. Having her recant her story or act add any sort of question mark to the events. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So she tells you, last night when I was putting everything up, finishing in the north garden, I don't remember much more than that. Well, not last night. The night before, I don't remember exactly what happened, but uh, I woke up not too long later, and she reaches her hand up to her head. Uh, some of the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, Lord Orphan. He was dragging me through the bushes. I started screaming and trying to get away, and he just hit me again and again. I knew there was naught I could do if it wasn't for patience. She begins to sob.
My dear, I want you to know, I pray that you know your safety and the safety of everyone else on this island I take incredibly seriously. And I feel miserable that this could have happened to you. I trust you completely, and I want you to know the perpetrator will be dealt with in the most harsh way possible. He will not plague this island or any other ever again.
Roll a diplomacy check.
Or bluff, I might be lying. I'm kidding.
Or an intimidate as you hold your dagger. She takes great comfort in this. She gives a few heavy sobs, and honestly, up against the wall by the door, her father stands, thick-shouldered. He runs the plow for the most part when it's time for gardening and or planting. He stands there, and as he watches you do this, you can see his eyes are a little bit teary as he's watching this. He has a long white beard, very short cut hair and receding hairline, thick-shouldered, tall man. As she gives a couple sobs and looks up at you with just a glimmer of hope after these events, he looks over at you and you can tell he's trying not to cry as he gives a couple quick nods.
And I return every ounce, like with a steely gaze, not at him, but more resolved that this situation will be dealt with. Yeah, I just try to inspire confidence in the man every way I can.
Okay, and sure enough, as you say this and you step outside, he follows you for a moment. He's got his pipe in his hand and it's shaking a little bit as he's looking at you. I don't know how I can thank that woman for saving her. I don't think I got it in me. My hands ain't good for nothing but soil, but I don't know how I could ever repay you.
No, listen, I only feel terrible that this man's evaded our capture for so long. It should have never happened to her in the first place. Please, you don't need to thank me. Instead, accept my sincerest apologies.
He stifles another bit of sob, and this guy doesn't look like he's ever probably cried in his life. He's got weather cracked face from being out in the sun all the time. He's thick and sturdy. His shirt is soiled and pulled back from working in the field, and he looks at you and through his tears he says, I just got one more thing to ask you.
Anything you or your daughter need, please don't hesitate to ask. What is it? What can I do for you?
I want to watch. Don't do it behind no closed walls. I want to see the life leave that bastard's eyes.
I'll tell you this, my friend. Many matters I deem private, and I do it behind closed walls because I think that's the right way to do things. But a villain of this ilk, all on the island will see this punishment enacted. It's important for everyone to see it.
That seems to satisfy him as he gives a quick nod. And he even gives there's not much bowing that happens on this island at all, but he definitely gives a nod of his head for a moment, looks at you one last time, sizing you up, and then he goes back inside.
And I really do mean it. I mean, take it. This is mean to you, Ben. Take it like if a month down the road this NPC comes to me and they need something for their home or whatever, like it's a sincere offer that I want them to know that I'm there for them if they need anything.
Okay. So that being said, at this point, Blisk is already in a cell at Fort Bloodrime. What is Lutheran doing for the night?
Lutheran will go to the cell where the man's being held, and like the simplest terms, he's gonna intimidate the shit out of the guy by just not even saying anything, just steel icy blue eyes just staring at the man, probably while probably as the guy might run through even a range of emotions of like questioning and then anger and all of that. I mean, Lewithan will stare at the man for 10 minutes straight without saying a word.
Okay. We'll roll that intimidate.
Well, shit.
Okay. This guy, Blisk, shaved head, thin man. As you come in and stare at him, he looks at you for a moment, but he can't even keep his eyes on you. After you stare at him for a little bit longer, he just begins to pace the cell like a cat, just trapped. Every now and then he goes to the back wall and he rattles the cage, just seeing if there's any weakness there. He's nervous, man. There's cold sweat on his head, just dripping. He's drenched. His armpits are soaked, and it's really not that warm, as he just seems to be looking for any crack to get out of this place.
I leave it at that, and I go for just some quiet contemplation somewhere,
Okay.
somewhere that I've kind of come to appreciate particularly about the island. I've probably found some cliff somewhere that is secluded and looks out over the water.
Okay. All right. And that's how you're going to basically spend the night, kind of in this meditation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you sit there and watch the waves crashing against the cliffs of Blood Rock, staring off far to the north. You find a really good secluded spot that hardly anyone goes to. Night comes, and even though you have dark vision, you can tell it's a deep, dark night with cloud cover. And as you stare over at the rolling waves, what seems like a couple minutes pass, but you realize that it had to have been hours. As you sit there with the cold grass blowing up against your legs, as you sit there, you see the sun cresting over the watery horizon, and you realize that before too long it's going to be daylight.
I head back to kind of the barracks room where I expect my loyal crew to be.
So, where would your men mostly stay? And I can add more to this. This is a map that I can always edit in the future.
Yeah, I think probably just where the barracks room, the one that Lewinthorn probably made his terrible fall outside of.
Okay. Yeah. So let me go ahead and throw some. I'll get these randos out of there.
Your terrible fall.
Yeah, when we did the raid, when he dropped because he was fighting too many at once.
Oh, right.
Okay. And I'm going to say that I haven't made an adept for you. I think that's just going to be something that you'll probably find along the way
Sure.
in your journeys. So 3 out of 4 of your guys are there, and we'll come up with names for these. You know what I'm saying? But this one's obviously the gambler guy I was telling you about. He's not there, and you probably have a good idea of where he's at.
Yep. Fair enough. I basically just Lewinthorn's like this odd mix of introvert and extrovert, in that part of his psyche gets rejuvenated by time alone, but he also gets rejuvenated by being around people that he trusts. And so he's just going to spend time with them. And in particular, is it Narsilithi or Narsilithy?
Honestly, whichever one seems to roll off the tongue better. I really didn't have anything in mind.
Let's
Try
go
to
with
make
Narsilithy.
Okay, Narsilithy.
And he wants to, in particular, he wants to spend a little bit of time with Narsilithy and kind of specifically lay out firearms and basically prep the means of execution that will be coming up for the day in a bit of a ritualistic manner.
Okay. So you pull out the guns and go over the process. We've already talked about this process, like metagame and everything.
Yeah.
So who are going to be who's going to do the firing? Out of the, I mean, not the one loaded, but like which three are going to be doing it?
Yeah. So I will do it. Narsilithy will be one, and then and if effectively, man, I figure since it's more or less like a coup de grace, right? Like it's not like it has to be somebody who specifically got proficiency in firearms. At least from my perspective, it'll very much be point and click, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
If Jace is around, Jace is the third if he's willing to do it.
Jace has never returned from his travels.
He has not returned from his travels.
He has never. He has not returned from. In fact, you haven't seen Jace in years.
Okay, got it. But Adriel has been back and has a hut on the island, right? So I would probably
Yes, he does.
Probably even early this morning, suspecting Adriel is also an early riser,
Yep.
Would go to engage and have a conversation with Adriel and Brad. Basically, what Luithrin lays out to Adriel is, I mean, you probably know that the culprit's been caught. He needs to be executed, and I explain that we're going to do a public execution, and the means of execution will be by firing squad, and that there are 3 of us who will each have firearms. Only one of the guns will be loaded with a live bullet. The other 2 will be blanks, but none of us is to know who is actually going to be the killer. Just to kind of, I don't think any of the 3 of us probably care that much about taking life, but there's a variety of kind of cultural reasons why it's important for Luithrin to handle it that way. And he basically just asks if you would like to be his third.
She wouldn't have any qualms with that. In fact, she would probably just.
We can do that with some roleplay.
Okay, cool.
So, thanks for laying it out. But I'll go ahead and I would assume that you'd go and find her this early, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and move us. But okay, so Kellen, another cool morning on the island. There's a slight cloud cover. It's pretty chilly as you bundle your cloak up against you, and you begin to head over to, the Temple of Sacritel on the island. So just give me one sec. I can't guarantee that everybody will see here, but I can make this work. Just give me a minute.
Oh, I'm there,
Okay.
so I can see.
You are there. Okay. And as you begin to head down the path, you know that the temple is right here. And you usually open it up, just make sure nothing's gone out of sorts over the night. And you also know that last night there was a huge event on the island due to the criminal being caught. And you can go ahead and move yourself freely.
You say this is the church?
Right here.
Okay.
Okay, and as you go through, this is the more northern part of town. You can see the docks to the south and the east. Lots of tents have sprung up here and a few buildings as well. You also know this is where Adriel's home is, down to the south. This place is studded with massive boulders, and all the tents of the less transient people that would eventually like to build houses, going out to sea, doing their jobs, and just trying to build their own piece of the island.
Tradesmen and craftsmen and stuff like that.
Exactly. And this part of the island over where you have your little temple built, it's nestled up against a fairly large clump of trees compared to a lot of the other island, and not all of them are palm trees, so it just seemed very fitting.
Cool. I would have tried to plant some 1 or 2 of the Tillison trees if they took root on blood rime.
Okay.
Now, did you say, is there doors here, or is it just
The doors are actually, there's no doors here. It's a large arch, and there's a tarp that's pulled over it in times of rain and things like that. And it's mostly symbolic of it being open to anyone on the island that needs it for shelter or anything like that. And as you go in, you see a man sitting in the pews, just leaned forward, his hands, his bald head in his hands as he's just leaned over. And as you walk in, you hear he's snoring a little bit. Large, broad shoulders. Go ahead and roll knowledge local.
knowledge. Let me pull that up real fast.
Yeah.
I made a quick tool for most of the knowledges except for knowledge local.
Okay. Let me pull up. Okay, as you look over and see the sleeping man, broad shoulders, gray hair, leaned over, you recognize Colbert. His daughter was Morris, the woman that was rescued the night before. As you look over at him, his normally dirty face has streaks from tears and just where his hands have been rubbing against them all night. And you realize that he must have been here for the majority of the night as he's snoring in the pews.
All right. Well, I'll let him sleep for the time being. I'll just kind of go about tidying things up. Maybe I'm not really sure what the practices are with the church, like taking out any kind of relics and displaying them, kind of if they're put in any kind of locked or something like that. Probably start sweeping, kind of get everything presentable for the day.
Okay, cool.
I'll wait till he
Gather
wakes
all,
up naturally.
and you scribe scrolls, right?
Yes.
I would assume that a large portion of the sanctuary is actually used for your crafting of that, especially when it's not crowded with parishioners. So you're able to check all of your ink and components and things like that. Make sure all the ointments and healing salves that you guys have collected over the time are in order. And honestly, he sleeps through this. This guy seems exhausted. But before too long, I'm not going to make you roll a spot for this. You notice, and it's still really early in the morning. Just give me one sec. You see Lutheran coming down the path, and are you bringing any of your followers?
No, I think I would be solo right now.
Okay, you see Lutheran walking with almost with purpose, coming from Fort Bloodrime.
All right, I'll come out and meet him at the door.
Okay. As you come to this portion of town, you see everything that I described before. You see the general store down here. You see Adriel's home, which is here. The small sandy pond where a lot of the tents have kind of sprung up and lean-tos. And you see Kellen poking his head out of the new temple of Sagratel.
I'm unable to see any of this. Am I supposed to be able to see this?
No, I hold
just
on. Let me.
curious.
No, it's okay. Just give me one sec. I will make it to where everybody can see this stuff. Where are my camera animals? We're just gonna have Toad out here, and I'll add everybody to it.
Sweet.
I can see everything now.
Well, you are Toad.
Oh, okay.
There you go, guys. Everybody can now freely move Toad.
Sweet.
Ooh.
Stop. I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. So go ahead, guys. There you are.
Morning, brother
just-
Kellen.
It's a good day for some today.
Aye. Good day for some. Last day for at least one.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard about the business. It was a good thing he was. Now I know about the whole business, right?
Yeah, it's pretty common knowledge throughout town.
All right, cool. Yes. Good that he was caught, but such a shame that he was able to hurt so many in his time.
The world will be a better place with one fewer villain like him around.
Let's hope his victims find peace in that, and their fathers too.
Indeed.
I'll kind of nod behind me in the church pews.
And sure enough, you see Colbert leaned over the pew, still asleep.
I figured I'd let him have some peace at least.
That's the least we can do. And speaking of that, if you hear, you can be sometimes closer to these people than I. I do my best to be among them, but I don't always hear things. But if you hear from them, or even hear of them, that he or the girl need for anything, please let me know.
Of course. You'll be my first stop.
Have you, by chance, do you know if Adriel's still in her home this morning?
I haven't been that's south, right? I haven't been that far south.
It's this building right here, and you haven't seen her out yet.
It's been
Adriel, you
fairly
can roll
quiet
perception.
today.
Adriel, you can roll perception if you want to. All right. I'm going to stay in your house, and with the distance here, you don't really hear anything out of the ordinary, just
Cool.
normal village noises as you go about your daily routine. Probably woke up not too long ago.
Yeah, I figure I'm down on a quick breakfast or something.
Okay. Well, put yourself by the breakfast table, bro.
Oh, that's the table. Okay. Is this a
Yeah.
rug here in the middle?
That's a rug.
Okay, cool.
Are you eating on the
so
rug
that's the
again?
one.
Yeah, that's the one. All right. So go ahead.
Well, I'll let you get back to your morning's preparations. I've got to speak with our warrior friend and see if she might help me with something today.
I think I might tag along. Preparations are pretty much done. There's not really much to prep. If you're
Please,
gonna let Colbert sleep a little bit longer.
good plan. Please be my guest. And he kind of gestures towards the road and invites you to kind of walk along with him.
You guys can move freely. And someone can move the toad if they want to. That is actually a window, just so you know. The door is right over here. I kind of put a path to it because doors are invisible in Roll20 for some reason. Okay. And Adriel, as you're eating, you sure enough see Lowenthal and Kellen walking around your yard to the front door.
Creeping in your window, apparently.
Yep, just staring through the window. Hi, friend.
I'll quickly stuff the last bite of my meal into my mouth and go to the door and grab it. Oh, Linthrin, what's up?
Adriel, dark business must be done this day. Thought I might speak with you about it if you don't mind.
Of course. She'll kind of gesture for him to come in and step back. Real quick, before we get into this, did this guy get a trial, and did this guy admit his guilt?
Honestly, after he got captured and brought over to Bloodrime, I'm sure that patients, she's pretty much surrounded by people from the folk and everything. I would assume that, I'll leave it up to you guys, mostly up to the orphan to see what he would have told everybody at this point, because patients hide out of town pretty soon after that just to get away from the throngs of people that were waving pitchforks and shouting, patting her on the back.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he'll probably Lutheran. For those who don't know, he's kind of developed a pirate persona known as the Winter's Orphan. So people around the town often refer to him as the Orphan now. But obviously, you guys can keep calling him Lutheran or whatever you want to call him. But
Duke Azur.
but he basically lays it all out to you, and he says, "I'm sure by now you've heard the villain who's haunted the surrounding areas for some time has been caught. Indeed, it's our friend Patience who prevented him from adding another notch to his wicked belt."
Of course.
Based on Patience's word, which I trust and I'm certain you do as well, and in speaking with the girl herself, I've no doubt he's the villain. Ordinarily, I might convene a makeshift trial of some sort for my own benefit.
Sorry, I want to say about a game. There is a meeting hall that it's been done before. There have been trials before.
Yeah, sure. So I say ordinarily I would, but frankly, I'm convinced of the man's guilt. I'm simply decreeing his execution will stand today, and I'm not going to give him a chance to make a farce of the travesty of what has been done.
I see.
I don't know your personal convictions about this. So what I'm about to ask of you, I completely no ill will if you aren't comfortable with it, but I'm going to see to it that he's executed this day, and the method of execution will be by firing squad. Um, you you would be invited to be my third if you'd like.
I would assume that I've heard of firing squads like this and know kind of the process.
I'm going to say that it's happened 1d4 plus 1 times on the island so far.
As a reminder, 3 of us will have guns. I'll be one, Narsilithy will be another, and I'm asking you if you're willing to be the third. 2 of the guns will be loaded with blanks, and the last will have the live round in it. We'll fire from such close range, none of us will truly know who fires the live bullet so we can be absolved of any guilt. But I'm not sure, given the circumstances, if you'd be comfortable doing that or not.
Has he admitted his guilt?
Ben, did he never actually said much to me?
Nah, he ain't admitted shit.
Yeah.
He refuses.
Yeah. He has not. And if that's important for you, then I understand that. It's not, in this case, he's been too much of a plague on this land for too long. So I care not whether he admits it.
She kind of sighs, thinks for a second, says, I will. If you have need of me.
I appreciate it, old friend. And I kind of lay out, I don't know what time makes sense for this to go down, if it's the sort of thing, like, between dawn...
It's probably something that you would do pretty soon in the morning, generally.
Yeah. I'll basically, like, an hour after first light is when I've... And I would have spread word that that's when it would be, right?
Yep.
If guilt is something you're worried about, I can always take Spire here and do the deed myself.
No, I appreciate that. Listen, you and I have traveled long enough together, and we've taken more lives than we care to count. It's less about me feeling any personal sense of guilt, and more about cosmic implications, as well as if there were to happen to be any, this villain has friends of his. They can't honestly or rightfully finger any one of us to say that we're the one who ended it.
It bothers me not, but as you will.
I nod.
What the fuck is this frog doing?
Who's moving the frog? Frog gets a hero point.
14 to hit.
I have not touched the frog. Frog has not been touched by me.
Probably even less than usual. Lutheran doesn't really mince a lot of words or hang around. I mean, he knows Adriel is a bit of the laconic sort anyway. But the agreement and the acknowledgement done, he kind of sets out and sets forth and doesn't say much else.
She'll assume that you're headed that way and she'll follow you unless you have a problem with that.
No, it's totally fine.
Okay.
Basically, I head back to the barracks where Narsilithy, was keeping watch. Basically, I had Narsilithy help me this morning so we could kind of do like the equivalent of a double blind. We had 2 paper cartridges on the table that were blanks and one that had a live round in it. I obviously would have to know which one had the live round, so I kind of played 3-card Monty with them so that she could mix them up. Or so I could mix them up, and then she picks which one goes where without me seeing it. So, I mean, it's one of those things, a lot like Adriel. Luithra doesn't care to kill this guy himself and let people see it, but it's important to him for the ritual. So he's sincere about it, but he doesn't know which of the guns has the live round.
Oh.
So we can go gather Narsilithy, the others, and the guns to do the deed.
Okay, and that's where you head. Patience, when you hear the chiming for this to commence, would you have headed to town?
I don't think she would.
Okay.
I don't think she particularly cares to see it. However, now that she's scared and she's like kind of had a very, very off-putting thing, I think she might head in the direction and just kind of linger outside enough to hear the sounds of the crowd and enough to kind of hear the voices on the wind, but not enough, not close enough that she would be seen or actually watching.
Okay.
I think she just wants the assurance of other presences besides her own, but doesn't actually still want to get involved with anyone.
Okay, that totally makes sense. Okay, so as you at least come out to hear this, you do see the tail end of the procession coming from Fort Bloodrime, leading this man along. He struggles a couple times, but there's nowhere for him to go. And you see them making their way towards the town. And I am going to throw a couple things out here. And as you look from the hill that you're on, Patience, into the town, you can see throngs of people gathering up to watch this as he's brought into town. I mean, there's really not much order with these people. They're mad. And most of the people that have made their permanent home here, they've really fallen in love with this place almost as an island paradise. Most of them are probably running from one thing or another in life. And they pelt this guy with various fruits and things of that nature, and you can see it even from where you're at. So good fruit getting wasted.
And good stuff.
Okay. And Lutheran, you bring this man into town with your followers as you go back and gather him. Like I said, he fights a couple times, but there's nothing he can do. At some points he's literally dragged as he kicks and tries to get away, but you're eventually able to make it to the south part of town. You see the docks stretched off into the sapphire waters of the bay. The meeting house is in front of you. You see the Lock and Key, the tavern, as well as you bring him down here. The executioner spot, a large post, an old mast dug into the ground up against a thick, sturdy boulder. He's brought and strapped by a couple of your men to it. And just give me a sec. Gotta roll with the blows here. And as you step to the side as he's being tied up there, you see Morris and Colbert standing to the side. She has a look of determination on her face. She still has a bruise across her cheek. And let me go ahead and throw a toad on here for everybody that is not here. I'm looking at you, Jace.
Yeah.
And also Harley.
I don't think you've have you moved us to that map? That may
No,
not be.
I'm about to.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay. In the harbor, as you come up, you see Millie's Lib docked as well. And let me go ahead and move you guys here.
Would Adriel have had any opportunity to talk to this guy?
She could have made an opportunity last night, and she could make an opportunity now as he's being dragged there. I mean, you could have gone back with Lewinthorn to gather him.
Yeah, Lewinthorn probably, I probably would have given orders that, not just anybody could come see him, but Adriel, you have full run of this island, so I certainly wouldn't have stopped you from doing it.
Okay, I'll probably make a point of just whenever we're picking him up, she'll ask him, your answer matters little, but I am curious if you admit your guilt.
Alright, well, I'm not even going to make him roll a touch attack because he just tries to spit on you and he gets cuffed in the mouth by one of the guards. He doesn't... He knows what's happening. I did nothing! I did nothing! Let me go!
Okay.
You're making a big mistake!
All right, I'll note that, but she won't say anything or do anything else. She just leaves.
Okay, you can roll sense motive if you want to. All right, man. You can take it as you will. He seems pretty convinced that he shouldn't be put up against a board to be executed. But okay, so you just follow the rest of the progression.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
All right, you get him there, Lewinthorn, and you bring him up to the post, and your men strap him on there, and like I said, you stand next to Morris, that's right there, and Colbert as well, as the crowds begin to gather around. Okay. and there you are, strapped to it. He's struggling. He's not even saying anything as he's looking around, wide-eyed. You can see the whites of his eyes. He's just struggling to get off of this board, but he's tied on it pretty hard.
Yeah. So Luinthrin, as there are probably still people kind of straggling up and haven't fully made it to the scene yet. He's not standing anywhere right next to the guy, and he's really actually probably not even paying him a whole lot of heed. Instead, he's like just kind of going around. He's got a somber look to him, but he's giving somber greetings and welcomes to the various inhabitants of the island, and he probably wouldn't bid them good day, but he kind of gives them a handshake and a nod before moving on to the next person.
All right, yeah, they seem happy, and most of them seem pretty honored when you give them a handshake or any sort of attention. They live pretty boring lives, even the ones that go out and do their nefarious pirating off the island. For the most part, it's just floating on the water, and they seem pretty excited to see you as you come up to them. Okay, so I do want you guys to roll perception check as you're kind of getting there and taking care of this.
By the way, Ben, do you want us to describe Narsilithy now?
Yeah, go ahead. And I would assume that most of the people that have been on the island for a while have seen her, but go ahead. And you can give a description of what they would know about her just from
Where is she,
in proximity.
She's right next to... Can you supersize her token really quick?
This one
totally.
to your up and to your right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's her. Can you guys see that?
Shift Z?
Is it Shift Z? I just pushed Z. Hold on.
Yeah, Z just does it for yourself. I learned that the first game of the Giant Slayer, because...
There you go.
Oh.
Is she a drow?
She is a drow.
Oh, cool.
So, Narsilithy... gosh, Ben, I don't know that we've pegged a timeline, but probably has been traveling with... not that Luinthrin's been traveling, but has been Luinthrin's faithful sidekick for, would you say, at least probably 2 years, Ben? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Whatever you think is appropriate. It's really your call.
Yeah, and this image is really accurate to what she looks like. Typical skin and hair tones of a drow. So inky black skin, white hair that's cropped somewhat short. You all always see her with a musket slung across her back and a variety of vials and potions at her hip, and a tome that she is often not far from. Anybody who's been around the island for any time at all knows that she is a crafter of firearms and a concoctor of elixirs. In game terms, she is an alchemist, but she is type the gun chemist alchemist.
Cool.
So she and Luinthrin regularly work on a variety of armaments and experiments and harvesting materials to use for their firearms, seeing to the equipment and particularly the Menusian cannonry that is aboard the Liberation and all such things. But to anybody who kind of knows much of her backstory, it's kind of a troubled backstory. She was taken from her people, and I don't know that she's shared a lot in detail. It may come up over time, but what little you guys probably all do know, she was not raised among her people, at least not for very long, but she kind of escaped a rather difficult situation, and along the way fell in with Luinthrin, and they are, as the saying goes, thick as thieves now. And everything you know, Luinthrin seems to trust her just as much as he trusts each of you, and would trust her with his life, and vice versa. So yeah, that's kind of her. The image has her with a pistol. She uses pistols, but her primary weapon is a musket.
Cool.
Neat.
Nice.
Okay, and as this crowd starts to gather, and you guys are standing there, honestly, all of you guys are able to see it, cresting from the east of the island, coming down around to where you're at. You guys see a ship heading that way, large, some sort of trading vessel. Though there are a few cannons on the side, large black and gray sails above it, You don't see. You actually do see a flag flying from a national flag, and it is the red and yellow flag. Go ahead and roll knowledge local.
You cut out a little bit, Ben. There. What flag did you say it was?
Knowledge
It's
local
red
to
and
find
yellow.
out.
Yeah, roll knowledge local, and I'll tell you. Sorry, I'm breaking up, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Also, is Patience actually there?
Local. Yeah,
Patience is
I am like at the
in the
very
distance.
outskirts.
Okay. I would have made a point
have
to
no
stop and
rank
talk to
in
Patience.
that. Oh, I got a. Is that a nat 20?
Elliot, do you have ranks in knowledge local?
No. I just have
That's-
a 1 from the modifier, I guess.
I'm gonna say with a 10, you guys can recognize it. It's okay. You recognize the flag of Pyresia. It is a mostly dwarven and human nation. Does he actually have ranks that rolled higher? I know Adriel did.
Lewinthron got a 20, and he has ranks as well.
Okay, you guys both know it's a. You all recognize it as Pyresia with a 10 or higher. With a 14 or higher, you know that Pyresia is one of the older nations. In fact, some say it's even the oldest, and it is a nation of mostly dwarves and humans. And the monarchy switches between dwarf rule and human rule, and for the last like few kings, it's been human rule. We'll say with a 19 or higher, 5 points higher than that. You also know that there's a lot of their legends basically say their nation was actually formed by giants. There's megaliths throughout the nation, and I mean giants are fairly mythical in this world. Like they are pretty much long dead, and the tongue of the tongue and custom of these people are said to come from that of the giants that taught them to be civilized.
Cool.
Neat.
Okay, but that's what you see from the flag, and I am going to go ahead and while you guys see this coming around, is there anything that Lewinthron would do at this point as the guns are being handed out? This guy's still kind of struggling, and you see the ship coming into port.
How often would ships like this come to port? Is it like a couple times a month, or?
Yeah, I mean that's probably like a pretty like solid estimate. Probably a couple times a month, maybe more in the trade seasons. And I would say that due to like the winter waters, it's probably not like it wouldn't be a couple of times a month at this point. But I mean, trade goods are always welcome.
Yeah, I think Lewinthron has a stance in this situation, like just to give you a picture of what's going on in his mind. He's not really sure what business the Parisians will have. He welcomes any trade that they might bring, but he doesn't want it to disrupt the execution in any way. So he's actually going to probably get to the business rather quickly.
Okay, cool. So
Real quick.
What's up?
Adriel, if she saw Patience at some point, she would have made a point to go talk to her, at least for a minute.
You need to roll a perception check because she's purposely staying off in the distance.
Okay.
And Patience, go ahead and roll stealth check to avoid the gaze of everybody. Honestly, I'm just gonna say from the distance, even with a little bonus, you probably wouldn't avoid Adriel's
Yeah,
glance.
no,
one
I
else,
don't have
just
any
because
bonuses to it right now because she's not an outsider, so that wouldn't help me. And I don't think I'm in the forest, right? So that I wouldn't have my +2 on there. So
Right. You know, I'm gonna give you the +2 for being in the forest. I'll say there's some trees over that way.
Okay, it's only 14, but still.
Okay.
If she looks like she's trying to avoid being seen, I'll just make note of it, but I won't approach her.
You actually do, like, as you're just kind of looking over the woods, you see her just for a brief moment poking out. No one else sees her though at this point.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll give her just the faintest nod, and then just keep going.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So for the last 4 days, Jace, you have been on the Black Stream from Port Liberty, making your way back after everything that you've done. It's been a wild 4 years for you. Lots of changes for you. Down below deck, you know that your new additions to the party have been strapped down and taken care of. And this ship is mostly full of dwarves and men traveling along. Okay, you've gotten to know the crew fairly well in these 4 days, and it's actually been a pretty joyful and easy ride, even though the waves have been pretty harsh. And yeah, you've gotten to know a handful of these dwarves. It turns out there are some performers on the ship, and to them and the people that hear them perform, and you saw them at first in Port Liberty, they are what is called Barixels. Okay, And this, to everybody else, is very antiquated and antique. The way these dwarves perform, almost like a Ren Fest. But this is something that was actually pretty common in your time, and it's kind of a refreshing taste of the past for you. As every now and then, after all the duties on the ship are performed and finished, you see them go about and do their silly little routines where they give small plays and make a lot of like really just mostly penis jokes. I mean, we're talking like Renaissance Fest type things as they go about juggling and things of that nature. You've gotten to know there's the troop is composed of 6 dwarves, and you've really gotten to know the main one, a dwarven man that goes by Godsphere, or Gadsphere is his name. And early in the morning, as you're cresting through the waters, off in the distance, you clearly see what you remember as Bloodrock coming up into view. Plumes of smoke coming up from it. It's surprising to you as you see there's actually in the port you see a new village sprouting up.
I go. If I'm not above deck, I'm going above deck to take a closer look.
Sure, and you are at this point as you're at the front of the ship. Gadsphere is leaning there as well. He's always drunk, and he kind of, even this early in the morning, he takes a sip out of his bottle, and he looks a little unsteady on the front of this, and he turns to you and gives you a warm, friendly smile. He seems like a pretty good guy, from what you can tell. You can roll a sense motive if you want to read into it, or however you want to do it, but he's always been pretty friendly to you. And I'm gonna say that Gadsphere is pretty much like one of the only people you've met that you might have hinted at your story, and it seemed to like click with him, and he never questioned you.
Interesting.
Okay, and as you come up,
You said it was morning?
yeah, it's early morning, and he's just drunk as piss. He's bobbing and weaving on the deck more so than the sailors that are moving about gracefully. As you come up, as he's leaning there taking a swig, he turns to you. Good morning, Jace.
Good morning.
So this is one of your friends are, eh?
Yes, it is. Looks
I
like
bet
they've
it's good to
done well.
finally see them after so long.
I think it will be. Which has
Just out of-
changed.
How much of your story would you have told to this guy in like 4 days of knowing him?
Depends on how much he pried, I guess. I'd probably tell him anything he asked.
Okay, so we'll say on the second night, does Jace drink?
On occasion, but not. He seldom, like. He'll get a buzz and then he'll probably stop drinking.
Okay. So we'll say on the second night of this journey, the first night you kind of got to know these guys, had it like ate with them and everything, and that's when Gadsphere offered, "Come and play some cards with me and the boys tonight. We'll have a couple drinks. I got a nice cabin down by the captain's quarters."
Sounds like a good time.
Okay, so yeah, you go and have some drinks, and maybe you even drank more than you would slightly with this guy. Somehow your story came out, as long as you're willing to do this. I'm not going to say it came out against your will. And most of the dwarves kind of made some jokes about it, and while Gadsphere makes jokes constantly, this was the one time he got serious. As he looked you up and down and the way you held yourself, it seemed to kind of click with him for a moment as he just gives a stern nod, and this doesn't happen very many times in the last 4 years. But regardless, he kind of takes a liking to you over the last couple of days. Every time you're drinking, or every time he's drinking, he offers you in for a drink, and you get along pretty well with all of the dwarves, except for, and not because he's rude to you, but one of the men with him is a dwarven man. He wears a mithril breastplate and has leather gear over it as well. And at his side, you see that he has a very fine revolver with a pearl handle hanging there. Stern-faced dwarf. This man, and he doesn't seem to be Parisian like the rest of them. He's constantly chewing on or smoking a cigar. When he leans on the ship, he doesn't look forward. He always seems to be looking west towards the mainland as you're moving along. The other dwarves introduce him as Sir Strace.
Interesting.
Okay. He doesn't have much to say to you, and he doesn't pry too much about your past. And when you say that, he doesn't even seem to. He's probably seen enough in his life to where he doesn't dig into it whether or not he believes you. But he's very contemplative, and he keeps to himself. One thing you do notice about him, One night, as he's polishing his pistol, he sets it to the side. You see him pull out his breastplate, and he takes off the leather coating it to protect it from getting scratched. And underneath it, you see a hammer with an eye on it. Do you have knowledge religion?
Do.
Roll it.
Sweet. Not very much, but
Oh, damn.
said not very much.
You know, I'm still going to give you a bonus because you
Okay,
recognize
good,
this.
Crazy.
What just happened? Hold on, let me see.
I get a
What kind
+3.
Okay, so you rolled in that one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just gonna say you briefly see a hammer. You don't see much more than that, but it kind of clicks the next day when you see him leaning over a couple of stone. He has stone prayer books, and as he's looking over them and reading from them, you realize that this guy's worshiping Zedros, which is that's the one we've talked about.
Okay. That's the one that doesn't like the Inari, correct?
That's the patron saint of the Argosan, the god of civilization and defending communities.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the god of giants as well. So, nonetheless, as he goes through these prayers and everything, if you say anything, he honestly seems a little bit annoyed, just because he is really getting into the flow of his prayers, and he doesn't say much to anyone, especially some random human that he doesn't know.
I probably wouldn't have interrupted him, but I might have asked him afterwards. Jace doesn't care if he doesn't care for him.
No, yeah.
Just intrigued.
What would you have said to him?
My religion is main religion in my homelands.
Aye. And what lands are those?
Lands that have been scarred over now, but I will retake them.
Aye. Well, besides my homeland of Grundar, there's not many who still follow the old ways. He kind of looks you up and down, and you know what? For a brief moment, you feel like his blue eyes go almost gray colored for a second as he looks you over, and he just gives a nod, and he chews a little bit on a cigar. May the first god watch you and keep you safe then. And he puts his hands on you. It's been at this point it's been a long day. You probably help on the ship and everything, and as he does so, you feel your weariness, your exhaustion just melt away as he puts his hand on you.
Thank you. Let's put this weird body at rest, at ease.
Well, those who follow the path will find guidance. And he looks like he's a little shocked that he said so much. In fact, you haven't heard him say this many words together the whole time you've been on the ship. And he almost looks a little embarrassed for a second as he bites off the tip of his cigar and starts putting his prayer books back into his bag very carefully and ties it up. Okay, so that morning, like I said, you're there with Gadspirit. You see the island ahead of you, this village that sprouted up. You had no idea there were so many people. You heard some rumors that there were that there was growth on the island when you were in Port Liberty half a week ago, but it's nothing like you could have imagined. There's several buildings, and as you're getting closer and closer into port, you see a large crowd of people around a boulder. Okay, I'm not going to make you roll perception checks. As you peer out from this distance, it takes you a second, and you meet eyes with Gadspir for a second. His mouth is open as he's shocked, just as shocked as you are, to see 3 people with guns pointed at someone that's tied up to the stake. And this is not exactly where you're at, but you're pretty close to here, Jace, just so you know. I'm about to move you and you'll understand. And the same to everybody else. As the ship's coming closer, it's slowing down as the sails are being lifted. And, alright, so what's up, Blue?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Ben, I don't know what you had planned or if this would work.
You guys are running the show, man. Let's hear it.
Like, kind of the timing of this, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. What I would like it to be would be that, like, right about the time the boat rolls up is when the triggers get pulled on these guns. If that works for
Perfect.
you. Now
I'll
I'm
take
going to have given a speech in advance of that, and we can go through that now.
Yeah,
but
let's hear the speech because they're not quite there yet, but they're getting closer and closer.
yeah, perfect. So Luinthra was trying to give everybody everybody on the island a chance who wants to be here to make it in time. And Adriel, you probably spot more than anybody else as the time kind of draws near. You see Luinthran look around and try and. It looks like he's looking for someone, and he's not really obvious about it. But you piece it together. You realize he's probably looking for Patience. He doesn't say anything. But you can just tell from his posture that he doesn't spot her probably the same way you did. And it's not going to change the fact of whether he moves forward with us or not. But you can kind of tell he's a little bit disappointed that she wasn't there, not because he, is macabre and wants her to witness it necessarily, but he's worried about his friend and the trauma of the event.
Would Patience do? Would Patience? Wait, you're looking for Patience, right? Would Patience do
Yeah.
anything if
Would
she
Patience
noticed
do
this?
anything if she
he's
notices
looking-
someone's looking for her?
Yeah, I mean, Luthern's looking around in the edge of. I mean, this probably isn't the first time you've stalked the edge of the woods around here before.
Considering that she is still decently shaken, she will actively hide herself even more, if that means stepping back a
Okay.
bit, stepping more into
Yeah.
the shadows. But if it's Luethrin who is looking for her, then she will probably whisper to him.
All right. What do you
Nice.
whisper?
She'll probably say, let me think.
I always figure you can do that.
Yeah, she'll probably say to like Luethrin on the wind, "I'm not in the mood."
And so Adriel, all you see is Luithrin give just a brief nod to no one and no direction in particular, but Patience, you obviously know what it means. But just kind of hearkening back, Luithrin's always had like a strange, I guess, appreciation and concern for Patience ever since their exchange where she was charmed and almost killed him. Like he knows the psychological trauma that some of those things can do, and here she's been through another traumatic event. So he was just kind of keeping an eye out because he's concerned for her, and even from the distance, Patience, you can probably see that. But he totally respects that you say that you're not in the mood.
Yeah, her whole thing is she doesn't dislike Luethrin now, especially since they've had like he's taught her a bit of magic. You know, they've exchanged herbal secrets and all that jazz. Especially now that he has his alchemist follower. She's obviously been in contact with him and like discussed matters about like potion making, crafting. But she, again, it's all in like steps of how much she isn't how much she likes, but how much she doesn't dislike. So he is on her list, like where Adriel is, where she dislikes them so little it's almost neutral, which is basically a compliment.
Yeah, he knows the significance of that.
And I don't know if it affects anything or not, but I think that you would know Adriel and Patience probably grew pretty close. They traveled together for a long time.
Adriel is definitely above Luethrin in her affection levels. And even I'm actually honest with Adriel. I think there would be not neutral, but she may even like her. Like she enjoys her presence.
Yeah, I think
she doesn't
Adriel
actively seek it, but if they're next to each other, she is a little bit more relaxed than she would be with other people.
Cool. You probably saw her nod as she noticed you in the woods earlier, but
yeah, she saw, and Patience probably would have just stared back, but not moved, which is basically akin to like I'm okay with you seeing me.
Sure.
So Luithrin, probably the super perceptive among us, like for sure Adriel, anybody else who wants to be in this group, you can probably pick up on Luithrin spots this ship coming, and you can tell he was probably still going through the process of mentally gathering himself, but probably imperceptible to the average folk of the island. But he hurries things along. Not in a way that comes across as weird, but he just clearly wants to get this deed done. And so a little sooner maybe than he planned to, he basically walks up over into the clearing, closer to where the man is, Narsilithy at his side, and probably just with enough of a commanding presence that any side conversations that might have been going on kind of cease. And with a nod to a couple of his most loyal men who are standing next to the guy, he basically had given them commands earlier, like, that dude's not allowed to speak right now. Like, I'm about to say some important stuff, and don't let him interrupt it, is basically the command that was given. And so they're prepped for that as well. And so Luinthrin, Ben, candidly, I would even probably burn a couple of my bardic inspiration of inspire. Let's see, hold on. Just for effect, I've got, I think, rallying cry and inspire courage, right? So mechanically, I'm not trying to get anything out of this, but Luinthrin starts to just layer on his oratory to the maximum. As he looks around at every person around him, he just kind of does a scan around, and he says, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, when you look around at one another, you probably see more differences than you see similarities. But the truth is, one thing brings us all together as inhabitants of this place that we call Bloodrime, and that's our hopes for a better life. We've all come here on varied paths and for different reasons, but ultimately, we sought to escape life for whatever reason. So what we all share in common is a desire for peace and for comfort, and simply to be left to pursue the life that we wish. And that's why the news of today is so grievous, so tragic. There's a villain that's hounded this island for far too long. There have been too many victims. And finally, the truth of who this pursuer is has come to light. I know how word travels, especially in a place as small as this. But this man here, this worthless scum, he sought to shatter the peace and the comfort that we have here. Ultimately, all of us on this island, we bear a rather light yoke. We pull a soft oar, if you will. And I've always done my best in leading you, not as a better, but as a friend, as a companion. I've always done my best to make sure we're all better off than we were. But this worthless rodent of a man sought to victimize the most powerless among us, and to do the unthinkable, and do it to those who were least able to protect themselves. My greatest regret in this is that it took us so long to discover who the villain is. But now that it's known, I personally know, as many of you do, our friend, the woman who found him in the act of trying to commit and reap his latest victim. I've no doubts that this is the man who's committed the crimes. Some of you may be wondering about the fact that we're not holding a trial. There's no showing of evidence, as we do in many of the smaller matters on this island. We do, despite the reputation in the larger world. We have rules here. I try to keep them as modest as we can, but we live in a civilized way. Today's actions, I'm not giving this man a chance to speak, and I apologize if that offends any of you. His guilt is apparent to all of us who know. I've spoken with the victim. My heart goes out to her and her father, and he looks over where they're standing, and he gives them whatever they need. I've told them to come to me for it. They will want for nothing. This tragedy should have never happened. Thank God Patience was there to stop it in its act, so that it didn't go any farther than it already did. And you see, Luther, genuine, sincere, a tear starts to well up in his eye as he regrets that somebody on this island that he is ultimately deems himself the keeper of, that someone could have been jeopardized in this way, and he just feels immense guilt about it. He said, "So in accordance with the customs that I've dictated for this island, we're going to put this man to death. We're going to use the firing squad as we always do. I regret the loss of life this day, but knowing that his like will not walk this earth any longer, I'm not actually sad about his individual presence being gone. I don't know how all of you feel about it, and unfortunately, it's being done this way regardless. I hope you see what I do now is to protect our way of life. It's to protect the good thing that we've been building here for some 4 years now. We simply can't let monsters like him prey on those of us that we wish to protect. And with that, we will end him." And with that, he takes his own derringer in hand. He hands the buttstock end of a musket to Adriel, and he nods to Narsilithe, and basically, as the man's tied up to the rock, he kind of makes quick work of the three of them going up behind and basically to the back of the man's head, holding all three guns to prepare for simultaneous pulling of the trigger. But I don't know if any of you as PCs, or Ben, if there are any NPCs, certainly people could interject or say things if they wanted to.
Honestly, man, the NPCs are like the people of the village are standing around. Some of them huddled together with arms over shoulders. There's quite a few that are standing close to the victim, of course, but they don't say a word. Like, you get a lot of nods, and every now and then you get a "That's right." But besides that, they watch.
And I guess Narsilithe and Adriel, Narsilithe does. Adriel, do you kind of come over at the gesture?
Yeah.
And assuming no one tries to stop them, just a very quiet, muttered 1, 2, 3, and then right after the 3 is when we'll have discussed for all three of us to pull the trigger simultaneously in a barrage of explosions and a puff of cloud, a rather large cloud of powder from the black powder of 3 firearms firing simultaneously.
Okay. And when they do, he jerks and he goes limp. Blood trickles down from the wound. He gives one last pump from it, and Blisk dies.
Dun dun dun.
And Lewinterin just kind of like holsters the Derringer, turns around, and says to the crowd, "I sincerely pray this community never has another day like this, ever."
Right. And of course, this was timed for just as the anchor's being dropped on the other ship. You see a handful of dwarves and men standing on the deck, peering out over this as Blisk goes limp. All right. So Jace, yeah, everybody's back. So Jace, you're on the edge of the ship as the sailors go about their business. The anchor's lowered with a loud clank as it splashes into the water. The ship lurches to a halt. You feel it heave under you, and the only person that's not used to the deck enough not to almost fall over is Gadsphere. He grabs onto the railing and he gives a smile as he almost falls over, and all of his men standing around him, holding drums, lutes, flutes, tambourines. They all give a laugh as he almost drops off the side of the ship. He just turns and laughs good-naturedly at his friends as the ship comes to a halt. And pretty much just as it does so, you hear the massive crack of the gunshots. You see a huge plume of smoke from these strange, to you, futuristic weapons that have just recently really come into production. And a big puff of smoke blows across the roof of the meeting house, this building next to them, and just billows off and lifts up into the atmosphere. As you see everyone standing around for a good solid couple minutes, as their attention goes from Justice to the new ship in the bay.
All right.
Just for to clarify, just so you know, the ship is not this close. It's off. Like
Off?
maybe another like 100 feet from where it's at, just directly down. Mainly because there's not a lot of room in the bay, and you can see the rowboats on the side, which are not present in the on the. They're actually overturned on the deck of the ship itself. Men start to overturn them.
Okay.
Can we move freely?
Yeah, you can move freely. You can act freely.
So I'm assuming that I'm not going to be able to take a horse aboard in one of these rowboats.
No, but they
Okay.
they will have rafts that are made specifically for this kind of thing.
Okay. I begin to aid them as well.
Okay, and what is everybody on shore doing at this point? That is a PC.
Adriel passes off her gun and follows behind Lorenthrin, who looks like he's making his way to the dock.
Yeah, Luthern's just making his way, like sizing up what might be coming.
Patience is still chilling at the edge of the forest in a hut. With her bow out now, though. Just in case.
Kel will actually head up to the new corpse and kind of do a last rites, almost kind of bless him for his next trip, even though he chose wrong in this life.
He uses that raise dead spell that we got.
And Kellen became a necromancer that day.
Only of himself.
Hey Ben, here's a question. Whatever happened to old Poker?
Yeah, and that's something that I was going to go over with you guys. More than likely, I mean, he's not very trainable. So more than likely he's either in a cell or he stowed away on a ship long ago. So it's up to you guys if you would have kept him locked up. But I mean, he would have probably done worse than this guy if he was free.
Yeah, I would have probably tried to see him on. Like, I didn't want any harm to come to him, but I didn't want him sticking around here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, more than likely he'd be in a cell and he wouldn't have escaped. So if you guys want to keep him and use him, that's totally fine. But if you, I mean,
Patience would have left him with Luethrin on the island after went to travel. She wouldn't have kept him around. He was more trouble than what she thought he was worth.
Yeah, he would have died on your journey, so you would have had to kill him.
Yeah.
More than likely, when Patience came back, he wasn't here anymore. I don't know how many questions you would have asked, but
yeah.
Would Luthor have just
offloaded the problem to Gunnarfin? Like,
okay. Then he's probably floating in a bay somewhere. He probably left like not too long after the liberation of the city, and you guys haven't heard anything from him since. Just one of those. Someone's probably eventually going to find a halfling corpse.
Yeah. He wasn't stable. It was probably the best thing for him.
Yeah, they just don't. You got to take care of that mental health.
Until it was live long enough to become the villain kind of thing. I think he started out as a villain, though. I don't think the mental health helped it, though.
Yeah, he was born a villain.
Yeah.
He was born in. He was born into a pile of daggers.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys can move freely up to the docks if you want to. You see the men going about business on the ship, getting rowboats over the side, and you can see the captain of the ship. He's actually, let's see. I can now shift to Z. I know how to do it. He's actually a gnomish man, and he does not have a harpoon in his hand, but he comes to the deck, a stout-looking feller. He's got an Abe Lincoln. He comes over to the edge, and as he sees you coming up, you hear him shout out, "Permission to come aboard!" or "Come ashore!" in Anor.
Luthern just throws up a hand in a wave and says, "Welcome, friend, and come. You're welcome to our hospitality."
All right, he bites down onto his lip and gives a stout seaman nod, and the men begin to lower their rowboats into the water, and they start to come ashore. Okay. Are you guys right where you're actually at? Yep, I see you kind of coming up there.
I think so.
Sandy Banks. Okay. The first couple rowboats are laden with sailors and dwarves and men, and as they start to come across, you see in one of them, man, Jace, you got to give yourself a description of what you look like now.
All right. You see Jace come across with Yuki following close behind him with a dark forest green cowl or a cloak, and a very tarnished. In some areas, you can see where it's glistened. If you're familiar with metal, you would recognize it as a mithril breastplate, but it's been pretty dinged up, pretty worn. His clothes look pretty ragged, holes and tears in most of them. He just looks like he's been through a lot of shit, more so than already. Looks like he's had a time.
Is his hair longer?
His hair is longer. He has a beard, and he is like a red-tailed hawk, but like maybe like just slightly bigger than a red-tailed hawk on his probably perched on the top of his shield, actually.
And Jace was like 22, right? 4 years ago, 22, 23?
322 years old.
So, when Jace first left the island, I mean, he was really barely a man. Like, he's a young guy. And now when he's coming up, he looks, he's definitely got some more age to his eyes. He's got his beard, his hair's longer, like he said. He's got all this new gear. But he looks like he's really like, I mean, you guys only knew him for like maybe a month after, Wet Joach, and Adriel knew him for a little bit longer. But he seems older. He seems a little bit different, and he seems like he's actually seen a lot more shit as he comes ashore in this rowboat. 3 of the men that are with him are dwarves. One is a shirtless, bearded. They're all bearded. A shirtless, stout dwarf who has a drum thrown over his back. He's kind of got a bit of a dull look on his face and a smile at the island as he comes ashore. Another one's a dark-skinned and dark-haired dwarf with a lute on his back, and I'm gonna say this guy because I really like this guy's mini.
Nice.
A very stout necklace, very rotund dwarf.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah, very Willie Nelson. He doesn't have a tooth in his mouth as he comes ashore, giving a big smile at everybody as he comes up. And so I'll put the 3 that came with Jace as they get up here to shore. Jace, you can move yourself to the shore too with Yuke.
Okay.
As Adriel sees Jace coming up on the boat, she definitely steps forward.
Okay. Yeah, you can just put yourself up on the shore as you guys get the rowboat up there.
She'll reach out a hand and say, Jace, and this is all in Telward again. It's good to see you again, my friend.
He'll accept the handshake. How have you been?
Things have been good. How were your travels?
Troubling, yet some things have unveiled to me.
I should like to hear all about it when you have time.
Sounds good. It's nice to see you, friend.
This dwarf right here, the one with the dark beard and the darker skin, steps forward. Where can one get a drink? You see the chunkier older dwarf give a laugh. Aye, that's what I'm here for. The one with the drum also steps forward. He swings his drum around and gives a couple quick beats. I don't have much coin on me, but I think I might be able to earn enough for a couple of ales if you have it here.
The first round will be on me, friends. and then perhaps with your skills with those implements, you might earn some more from these fine folk. My name's Luentherin. Folk call me the Winter's Orphan. This is Blood Rime Isle, and we welcome you to it.
The old one steps forward. Oh, thanks for the welcome. Your blue skin tells a lot about you. I heard if the Undawn Tone had a drink, they would melt though. What kind of drinks could you have here?
That only happens when we're north of the equator.
Oh, that makes sense.
The lies.
All right, and the rest of the dwarves are kind of coming to I'm going to just drag them all at once. All right, and this is when you notice the man with the gun that I described to Jace earlier coming off the deck of the ship. This fella right here, he's got a revolver at his side. He also has a mithril breastplate as well. He's got a cigar in his mouth, and he's looking he looks very sternly across the island and everything. He kind of has a no-nonsense look to him as he comes up, and as he steps up, just hearing you say "Welcome to Blood Ryan," and all of that. He looks over at you. Are you the mayor of this island?
I keep watch over this flock, if you will. Who might you be, friend?
He looks at you for a moment. I am Sir Straith of Grundar. It's your welcome warms my heart, he says, and you can tell like he probably doesn't really have his heart warmed very much by this as he steps forward. May I respectfully ask for accommodations for my men for the night. If you will have us, we wish to trade and perhaps earn a bit of coin. There will be no trouble for my men, I assure you. A few of the jolly dwarves that have traveled with him, they look a little embarrassed, like they've gotten into some trouble in the past. Isn't that right? You hear murmured nods, and one of them says, "Fuck, this again?"
Well, some trouble might be welcome, but I appreciate the sentiment nonetheless. We'll see you to it. You'll have meals, you'll have drinks, and you'll have a halfway comfortable place to lay your head, right?
That would do us well after being in that leaky old thing.
I point him to the lock and key as a place to get a meal.
And as you point him that way, you see your man on the inside. He's kind of standing over here. He looks at you, and at that point, you see where I moved him. I mean, I guess you can see him. He actually like hears that, and he just, without even giving you any sort of motion, you know he's heading over there to get a drink himself. He's kind of he listens to a lot of the tales, just like the innkeeper does, and he just keeps you updated.
Yeah. And we're a well-oiled machine. I don't even nobody even watching would see me, but I sort of I know exactly what he's up to.
Okay. And with that, you get a few nods from them, and the troop of dwarves, not including Sir Strace, they begin to play their music, and drums, lute, all of it. The villagers kind of peer around as they begin a jaunty, jolly tune that is in direct contrast to what just happened not too long before on the island. Leaving behind, two of them actually stay behind, Sir Strace and this other dwarf. Thick fur cowl, even in the weather that you guys have here. Red robes. He's this guy. He stands there, and he has a bottle in his hand, and he looks red-cheeked, and he looks drunk as hell already as he stands there. Sir Strace looks over him and looks just a little bit disgusted by it, but the rest of them start to heading towards the inn.
Meanwhile, Ben, I think my two followers would have probably been rather unceremoniously untying the corpse of of the slain from the rock. And, Lewinthorn has no intention of doing anything like that would seem like a warlord. It's not going to be a head on a pike or a corpse swinging from a gibbet moment. It's like he's basically directed them to just dump the body at sea. But, the awkwardness of, like, they're savvy enough to try and do it discreetly. I'm sure the prying eyes of the people who've just come onto the island aren't oblivious to exactly what's happened, but we're not gonna, wave it in their face either.
And sure enough, as this is going on, and you kind of glance over there, you notice standing behind you, or not too far away, you see Sir Strace just kind of watching this happen. And as it happens, you said that you'd welcome trouble on the island. It looks like you might have had a bit yourself.
That kind of troubles that we don't welcome. Poor timing that you've come here to see the worst of what's ever happened here. I assure you, this is not a place that normally has the sort of trouble that results in such as that, but I'm afraid you've come in dark times, but perhaps your troop can bring some light back to the island to lighten the mood.
To form the stone, you must break the marble first. Yeah, you'd be wrong to think that this isn't what I'd like to see. This is precisely the thing I'd like to see on some of these more unkept islands. He says islands with pure he says it with disgust, and you're not sure if it's because of the type of people to form here, or just the fact that it's surrounded by water. But he doesn't seem to like the water itself. In fact, one of the waves laps up against his boot, and he steps away from it quickly.
Listen, my philosophy on this island, we're rather independent. I try and leave the people with a great deal of freedom. But one thing I certainly will never tolerate is victimizing others, or putting folk not only in jeopardy, but putting any fear in their hearts unnecessarily. We put an end to that this day.
Okay, just give me 1 sec. Let me check one thing real quick as you say that. All right. Roll a spellcraft. Anybody that's close to these two that can actually roll it.
Here. Sorry, my browser's going slow.
You're fine. Okay. Kellen, you can definitely see the way he's Sir Strace is posturing himself. Something seems a little off for a moment. But Narsalithi, or Narsalithi, I'll never be able to pronounce it the way you said it. She recognizes that he is actually using a spell-like ability. I'm trying to think of how much of a disconnect between you and your cohort, what you would know. But as he looks you over, perhaps it is good tiding that I came across you this day, orphan. I have another request of you, if you have a moment, and my humblest apologies for coming to you with no gift in return for this. But perhaps you can bring me to more gentle lodging for the night. I'm not one to stay in such a place.
Indeed, we have a place for you that might be more to your liking and more appropriate for your stature.
Cutscene to a cell door slamming. He gives you a nod. My thanks. I'll go and make sure that all of my men have a fine place to stay here. Please send someone for me before the night.
I nod. I will gladly do so.
Okay. Come on, Godsphere. Get yourself another drink before you dry out. And they all begin to head that way. A couple stumbles from Gadsphere, and all the dwarves continue to play and move towards the inn.
Heaven forbid your liver is not drowning.
Oh, he
This
is.
morning, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
morning.
bright ass morning. Like the sun just cracked
You have not seen Gadsphere just not completely hammered.
Nice.
And he's always trying to get everybody drunk, even the captain. In fact, there was a brief moment when the captain almost threw him in the brig because he wouldn't stop pestering him on the other side of the door to get him to come have a drink with the dwarves.
That's hilarious. Fucking hilarious.
And is that guy human?
Which
Or
one?
is he a dwarf?
Gadsphere?
The leader guy.
It's a halfling, wasn't it? Or
Sir
something?
Strace or Gadsphere?
Yeah, Sir Strace.
He is a dwarf.
Okay,
This is
cool.
him right here.
Oh, okay,
that is
cool.
not him.
Oh.
That's actually that's just a random dwarf in the Barixels. Okay.
Cool. I just wanted to make sure he was a dwarf.
This guy.
Oh, okay, cool. Definitely a dwarf.
Yep.
Yeah, Jace's gonna have to look at that gun. Gotta know what's up with that thing. Guns are like, yep. Jace is gonna be about that.
You probably, Jace, we haven't had much chance to chat, but you probably quickly noticed there's a pistol on Luinthrin's hip and a musket slung over his shoulder, and there's a dark elf standing close to him that also has a musket.
Yeah, the rest of you should describe your changes too, because I think everybody's changed quite a bit. Adriel's definitely scarier.
Yeah, Adriel
Yeah,
probably
Adriel
doesn't
was-
look that different, but definitely looks a little bit more hardened, even more than she was before. But as far as like her fashion and her gear, it probably looks pretty similar.
Nice.
For those who didn't travel with her after she left, or who hadn't seen her very much, you definitely notice a short sword at her side that wasn't there before that is made of cold iron. I picked that up whenever I was with Luinthrin, so Patience would definitely have known about it.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Kellen's a bit more weathered looking, like a lot more tan, because he'd probably spent the last couple years or so mostly sailing. Probably his beard's a bit longer, probably a bit more ratted, like not really caring about keeping it up too much. Wearing a newish cloak. See pretty fancy quiver at his side. It's kind of like leather scroll work with like gold inlays. And probably several pouches at his side with like scroll cases.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Okay. So, Jace, as you get around, you see all like all your comrades. It's been so long, and yeah, what do you guys do?
It's nice to see friends again. Kellen, how are you?
I'm well. It has been a while.
Lutheran, what's that at your side?
You were with us. You went on the Wet Joach hunt, right?
Correct. And then shortly
Yeah.
after that, departed. He would
Yeah.
have let you know that he was.
Yeah.
taken.
So it
He
was-
left before it was working.
yeah. So Luinthrin will say, you probably don't recognize it, but this fancy thing is the result of many years' work on, let's say, repairing and improving upon the Derringer we found in Joach's treasure.
Ah, that old thing. Nice.
But you can tell the thing just looks. I mean, the nuts and bolts of it probably haven't changed much, but whereas literally when you last saw it when we first found it, it was probably at the broken condition. Now it's literally a masterwork, so it's the far end of the spectrum.
Very nice.
Patience is still hiding behind a tree, so you probably have not seen her yet.
Yeah, that's one thing you've noticed. You do not see Patience.
I'll lean down to scratch Yuki's ear and ask where's Patience.
She's around.
Fair enough.
That's good old Patience.
I'm sure she knows you're here.
I would
Not
say
sure if that's
let's have a
comforting or
drink.
not for Jace, but
No.
I'd say let's have a drink, but it's too early for me.
well, Jace,
Uh,
the whole place is booming. The village has grown quite a bit. There's a lot of people here, man, and you see them slowly. And I'm doing that right now. You see them slowly moving about to go about their daily business, and you see the corpse being taken down. And I mean, obviously, someone was just executed. So
Have you had anything to eat yet?
but I'd like to get my other friend off the ship first, if possible. He's been cooped up down below for way too long.
Of course.
okay,
Okay.
and
How can we help?
just as you're saying that, Lutheran, you guys look over just to make this simple. You see cargo being unloaded onto small rafts and just cargo rowboats. You see a horse being carefully unloaded onto one of them with a winch and a crane and brought down onto one of the rafts. You can describe your horse. I don't have a miniature for it yet because I didn't know what you wanted your horse to look like. But
When would he have picked up the horse?
Probably pretty close to the journey because he was going to use the horse. You probably rode on
Okay,
the
cool.
horse. You're probably familiar with the horse.
Okay, cool. That's what I was asking for.
Yep.
the horse's
Baron.
name is Todd.
Old
Baron.
horse.
His name's
Baron. Cool.
And he is a shoot. What's that name? What's the Budweiser horse?
Clydesdale?
Clydesdale.
Clydesdales?
It's a Clydesdale. It's a Clydesdale, and he's got barred leather
Sweet.
on and a combat saddle.
Yeah, probably bundled up next to him since he's been in storage. You see a bundle of what will eventually look like armor when it's on barding
yeah.
when it's put on the horse. They come to shore. They bring it here. Your horse here. I'm sure I can find a random mini for it, but they unload Baron for you.
It's good to see good old Baron still at your side. Between him and Yuki, you should have been in good company.
Always have been. Thank you.
I'm sure your shipmates have enjoyed traveling with a jaguar.
I'm sure it's made a few of them wary.
All of them are like, how are we not eaten yet?
There are 2 bites taken out of your horse.
Damn.
Just a little nibble. A snack.
I give you my
I'll-
last potion.
I'll get you a real mini eventually, Jace.
It's good, man. I just wanted him basically to get some food and like get some walking in since he's been
Okay, so you grab him by the reins and lead him over to some grass.
correct.
Oh, that's something else I wanted to say. There are now raptors on the island.
Oh
Nice.
yeah.
Oh, sweet.
How's
I-
Trudy doing?
Probably well enough. I would assume she spends most of her time over by Patience's shack, which I'm gonna also build you a cool shack for Patience, and just going in and about the woods. Her species of dinosaurs are kind of thieves, so every now and then she runs and steals a few eggs from a chicken coop, but does not hatch them.
Love it.
She's spotted every now and then. Patience sees her more than anyone else.
Sees who? The raptor?
Trudy, the other dinosaur, the one that had the
Ah.
raptor eggs.
Yee.
You,
Oh, Trudy.
you guys
What-
inform Jace that there's like raptors running around, or like is that not really a problem in town?
I wouldn't imagine it's a problem in town.
Okay.
Well, they're not really like in Jurassic Park. It's a pretty young brood. There's only a couple generations of them, and they mostly stick to themselves, and they're more afraid of civilization than anything. They're like the size of they're small.
Okay. I was just worried about the horse.
No, the horse would whoop the shit out of a raptor.
I know he would for sure for like one, but a bunch, I don't know.
There's a small population of them, and in a couple generations, they're going to be so inbred it doesn't matter.
Oh
I
no.
still love the canon that I think out of character we all knew what was going to happen, but in character, I think the party probably thought the eggs were Trudy's eggs, not raptor eggs. So I love the idea of
Patience
when
knew.
those suckers hatched, we're like, what the heck?
Patience knew. I remember.
Yeah,
she
Patience
rolled
said
by
no,
that.
but Patience also is like very much, they made that choice.
Trudy, mother of all. Like she could have her steal eggs from different things and raise them as her own, like a horde of like ducks and chickens and raptors.
She's our own personal monster rancher.
Lime
Sounds
Rancher.
great. What are we having?
I need to go make preparations for this new traveler who's joined us. Assuming none of the folks from the ship are close by, Luther would say, Jace, what can you tell me about this Sir Strace?
He's been awful quiet on the journey. He does follow. Sorry, Ben. I'm horrible with names.
Zedros.
Zedros. The same religion as my kingdom.
You guys can roll knowledge religions if you want to.
Yeah. Luther's actually not trained, but yeah, so you got about a 10.
Dang, Kellen, you keep rolling poorly on those knowledge religions,
Right.
or knowledges in general. You guys have all heard of Zedros. I mean, it's one of the common gods, especially of the dwarves. But besides being the god of protection, you probably don't know too much about it.
Would I know if Luinthrin has a place in mind for this guy?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know what's about to happen.
I guess that was partially a question for Jared.
Sure.
I was kind of assuming we might have an unused room that we could pull a halfway decent bed into somewhere inside the fort.
Adriel will comment say, let me gather my things and he's welcome to use my place.
That's a kind offer, probably better than anything else we can find. The palace isn't finished being built yet, he says to Jace.
Will be one day.
Ben, what did Narsilithe, was it, I'm kind of assuming here, was it like a detect evil ability that the guy used on Luinthrin?
Would Luinthorn ask her, or if you think that she would tell him?
I was actually going to roleplay it the other way, that she's going to come up and say something to him about it.
Okay, yeah, it was detect evil.
Yeah, so Jace, while you're there talking, you see this short-haired dark elven woman with a rifle or a musket slung over her back walk up and say, introduce herself and say, I'm Narsilithe. I am friends with the one we call the orphan, and that probably strikes you as weird, Jace, because you've never heard Luinthrin referred to as the orphan.
Yeah. Unless she indicated to you, I wouldn't be certain on that one.
And on seeing a glance at your the puzzled look on your face, Luinthrin says, "She's referring to me, my friend. I've developed a bit of a persona since you've been gone. Seemed the right thing to do as the captain of a ship."
It's good to hear. I'll extend the hand. Greetings. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Believe it or not, I've heard a lot about you.
Hopefully good things.
Aye, sounds like you've got quite a tale. She says, speaking of, I didn't mean to intrude, but I heard you all speaking of this Sir Strace. Luinthrin, did you notice that he used a magical ability upon you Best I could tell, he was trying to sense if there was evil in you. Lutheran kind of looks back at her, puzzled. I didn't notice it. Thankfully, to the best of my knowledge, evil doesn't reside in my heart, so hopefully he liked what he saw.
I love that response so much, man.
So Lutheran looks at Jace and says, Jace, did you ever notice that man use any other abilities on your journeys? I guess he probably wouldn't have had much reason to, but he apparently was able to do it on the sly, so I didn't even notice it.
I haven't noticed him doing it. He kind of stayed to himself. Didn't pay too much heed to him. Not until towards the end.
His friends were cool as hell, though. They partied.
Did any of them mention why they were coming to this island?
They said they were coming to earn coin, Jace. You know they're performers. They perform for you.
They're traveling performers. They've come to earn some coin. Not sure what else they do, but they definitely do well at the performing.
Jace, I've always known you to have a keen eye and the right kind of suspicious nature. Is there anything else in the undercurrent of what those men are here for that we should be wary of?
Not that I noticed, but they're definitely not just performers.
Winther nods. Goes without saying with this bunch, but I'd be wary just in general until we get a better read on them and their intentions.
I haven't noticed any ill will towards me yet.
Jace, sorry for the short welcome. I promise I'm glad to have you back. There's just some things that need attending to shortly, but hopefully we can connect and you can share more of your travels later.
Sounds good.
And the Winter just heads off to get busy on a variety of things, including making sure that Sir Strace has what he needs at Adriel's house.
Patience, I kind of feel like you're at the edge of all of this. Like, what are you doing?
I'm trying to figure out like when she would probably like get closer since everyone's moving. I don't want to be like she rushes in because it's not something you should do. But I'm trying to think of like organically where to break into everything.
The crowd definitely dispersed earlier, so.
Yeah, you think that like everyone's dispersed? Because if the crowd disperses, I think she would have like just kind of meandered up then, as long as there's not like a giant cloud.
Sure, we'll say right about now, pretty much everybody's gone. I just haven't looked at their minis, but we'll say they're going about their daily business. There might be like there's one person left, and that's Colbert, and he's just kind of standing by the meeting board, just he's just staring off into nothing. He seems pretty exhausted.
As Lutheran excuses himself and starts to leave, I'll mention, after I gather my things, I think I might take Jace to my usual spot, if you're looking for us later.
He nods. Appreciate that.
As people are kind of just like meandering about doing their own thing, Patience will finally get closer and take a look at all of the new people who have come in, including Jace. Now, I don't think I ever mentioned the differences in Patience's appearance.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned much of like the kind of things I bought with all the money because she didn't buy anything beforehand. But I have a picture actually that it's probably easier just to show you than describe it. But I'll try describing it as well. She, on her travels, mainly worked again to learn about her people. She did a lot of traveling in disguise. She's again very nervous about people seeing too much of her. And she worked as a doctor and she learned some magics from Luethrin. So she has gone basically around as a something akin to like a plague doctor, and I'm just posting the picture now.
Oh,
So
that's so cool.
she constantly wears a mask. Her hair is now grown out completely, so her hair is no longer short. Her face itself hasn't aged, but you don't see much of it anymore. Around maybe Luethrin and Adriel, she'll often have her mask off, but typically in other people's company, she will have it on. She only really has the cape on if she is out and moving about, but typically the mask is usually stationed on her face. She usually has Pumbaa still by her side, and you now see at her waist is a little cage made out of silver with a really nasty looking rat in it. Along with a bunch of vials and potions looking things on her waist as well. She moves along a lot more stealthily, a lot more quietly, but she's not shy. She's just very, very cautious. Between what she's learned from Luethrin, watching Adriel, she knows she's not a super powerful person. She's not brimming with intimidation or muscle, but she is good at what she does, and that's either healing or hurting, mainly with medicines and herbs and magics and from a distance. So her whole persona now is from a distance, she will observe. And she kind of just looks mysterious, but usually negligible to other people because most people don't want to be around like a plague doctor or a doctor in general. So they typically will leave people like that alone, which has helped her move around in her travels. So that's what you guys, if you are there, still see now. Patience in her new getup, with the mask, with her pig and a rat on her side, just kind of looking around at the new people who've come in, just taking it all in. Probably doing like a perception of everyone to see if anyone looked like they could be harmful to her or to the people she cares about.
Luithrin walks north, like right past Patience, and just kind of gives a pat on the shoulder as he walks by and doesn't feel the need to say much, but their shared bond is. They know enough about how one another feels, so he just walks past.
Patience doesn't stiffen when he touches her shoulder. Which just shows kind of like how she trusts him even if she doesn't say anything, and will just kind of take the moment and then continue walking forward. Oh, cool! You already put it in.
Nice.
If you want it, I can update it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If you're
I just made the token right now. I can totally attach it if you like it more.
awesome. I would like that a
Yeah,
lot.
that art is really cool. Okay.
And if anything, I'll also here you go. Here's Pumbaa's new art.
No.
That's actually really. Where did you get that?
I found the image of the boar just Google searching in the deepest of depths, and then I found a picture of a bow, and I just layered it. That's it.
Cool. I like it. Just give me
I'm
one
not
sec.
super talented, but I can do minor things.
It's better than me. All right. Let's see here.
But yeah, and across her back you see her short bow, and you see a dagger at her side, along with McCheesus.
What is Patience's dark vision? Is it 60?
It is 60, yes.
All right.
Oh boy. So excited.
Hell yeah. Okay, let me go ahead and add it. Patience.
Adriel will say as she starts walking up, it looks like
There you go.
Patience is generous enough to grace us with her presence. Grace you with her presence, I say.
Patience gives the smallest of smirk and smiles at this. She has learned to very much roll with the punches of Adriel's humor and her quips and has quite enjoyed it. And so she approaches slowly and just kind of looks over Jace, nods at Kellen. Does Jace appear to be wounded in any shape or form or anything like that?
No, he just looks rough. Just like worn from travel.
Roll a heal check.
Okay. 22.
Okay. As you look over Jace, he definitely has more scars. You don't see any active wounds on him, but underneath his armor, you can see part of his shoulder. You see some pretty horrible rakes. They look like claw marks underneath his cape, or his cowl. You can see through it, and it looks like they started on his breastplate. Like you said that your breastplate was dented and dinged, right?
Yeah, it looks battle worn.
Yeah, and you can tell the scratch marks went from the plate all the way to his back.
Jace, did your face ever really heal well from the burns, or were you like permanently kind of disfigured with wounds when it comes to that?
It hasn't healed yet. I don't know if it can be.
The burns?
All over his eye? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Scars or
because he had,
nothing over it?
because he had like what 3rd-degree burns from when you fell from the sky. So I was wondering if like you had,
I thought they were acid burns.
What was that? Were the acid burns?
We're acid
Yeah.
burns, yeah.
Oh, they were acid burns. Okay.
They're like hamburger like scars. It looks pretty bad still, but I mean it's healed over.
Patience doesn't have any things on her right now that would help the scarring, but
I kind of imagine he looks almost like the Hound from the Game of Thrones, if you guys have seen that.
oh yeah, okay.
But
All
like
right.
missing an eye.
Is that accurate,
Yeah,
Jace?
that kind of is, yeah.
Okay. Patience would kind of peer around and just kind of take him in, not even really saying hi. She hasn't even said hi at this point.
Well, Jace is gonna say greetings. It's nice to see you, friend.
Patience is just going to continue to be silent and look around, and then just take a single finger, like poke at his face and poke at his chest, and like move his clothes, just being a little bit more invasive than she probably should to someone she hasn't seen in 4 years or talked to in 4 years.
Yuki sniffs you.
Patience moves McCheesus to her other hip, just in case he gets hungry. And will kind of mutter at the side of her mouth, "Don't. That's junk food." McCheesus does not look offended. He looks proud at that comment. Patience then will address Jace finally and say, "I can help with some of the scarring, if you like. Or you can remain that way. It's up to you. I see you have retained all your limbs."
Yeah, barely.
"That's good. Mother's favorite was your..." And she kind of makes a motion to his rear end.
Oh my god.
"I'm glad it's not damaged. I think it was your best attribute, according to Mother."
Thanks, and I would be happy if you could do anything towards this other side of my face that's not so appealing.
You'd be impressed at how much she's learned over the years.
"I can now mix magic with my healing.
I'm
I'll see what
impressed.
I can do." And she'll kind of take a step back. After
Have
giving
you-
Yukimaru a scratch on the head. "Good cat."
He tries to not look at the rat, but is totally looking at the rat.
The rat is honestly atrocious to look at. McCheesus is a affront upon this planet.
Yeah, Yuka's probably looking pretty disgusted at the thing.
Yeah, it's probably just the movement of it. You know how cats like see movement. It's kind of
McCheesus
fixated
is
on
kind
it.
of like... It's probably just like either lounging in his cage, or sometimes he likes to be a go-go dancer in there, or practice the fake martial arts he used to watch
Looking like
from
Splinter.
I
Adrian.
forgot about that.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
He
he's
probably
doing it in
looks
like a
like
really
someone
derpy way,
dropped
so
a
he just looks dumb.
gun.
He looks dumb.
We all know that the game's gonna end with all of you dead and McCheesus and riding Pumbaa in to kill the last boss.
Not gonna
With the
lie, I
music
am
playing,
looking to see
"Everybody was
if
kung
you can get
fu
like small
fighting."
saddles, and I want to put a saddle on top of Pumbaa's head and have it be like a hat, so he just sits on Pumbaa.
It's hilarious.
I've allowed Stranger Things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they have categories for smaller size saddles.
Patience, this is Baron. As Jace indicates to the horse.
Patience whispers lightly in the air toward Darren. They appear to be calming words. How do you think Darren reacts?
Calming words? Like what kind of calming words?
Calming, like she's greeting him in like a soft tone over the wind as to not startle him, and given that she's a ranger.
You can roll your wild empathy or animal handle.
Yeah, I'll roll
or
my
handle
wild
animal.
empathy. 23.
I would say he would sniff the air and start coming towards you slowly. Looking at you. Looking intrigued.
Patience will take out some edible root vegetables from one of the many pouches on her waist and extend it toward the horse. It's probably like parsnips or something.
Yep. He's gonna eat that. For sure.
She gives it to him. Lets him eat it if
Takes it without nibbling you.
He's a very healthy looking horse too. When he comes up, it has very healthy teeth. It's very strong. It's very wide, and there's actually a couple scars on the horse itself. It seems very well trained.
Patience looks the horse over. Nice steed. Pumbaa is now AW ridden as well, right, Pumbaa? And Pumbaa, proudly with the little blue bow on top of his head and a saddle on his back, kind of straightens up as much as a boar that is naturally a hunched creature can, and lets out a very loud snort of just exhaled air and kind of stamps on the ground. Well, it's good to see you in one piece. Kellen, Adriel. I might have something I need to ask you, Adriel, later.
Sure.
For now, I think I'll go back to my hut. Maybe to work on the salve I need to... And kind of just motions to Jace's face. Fix that.
Ouch.
And
Whatever that
we'll
meant.
start...
As you start to head off, Adriel will say, "I think I'm going to take Jace to my spot by the lake later, if you're looking for us."
Patience nods. And we'll start heading back to her little hut in the forest, and we'll start working on a salve to possibly ease the scarring on his face.
Okay, so Luthern, what were you doing? You said you were heading back to make preparations.
Yeah, that's what he told everybody, but he's kind of actually just wants to go get a little bit of time to decompress from the morning.
Okay, what would that look like?
For this, he probably will just go back to his private quarters and just, probably just like chill. Like maybe even nap, which is against his nature. He put on a good front, but he's really emotionally exhausted.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
never been actually like a violent person, so it's probably really hard on him to have to do like difficult violent things.
Yeah, he's especially in this sort of circumstances, like when he felt like a lot was riding on his shoulders. He's like worn the mantle of leadership to the best that he can, but he never saw himself landing where he's landed today. If you'd asked him if this is where he'd be, 6 years ago, never in a million years would he have saw himself here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you head back to Fort Bloodrime. And you eventually make your way there. The sound of the smithy is with something being worked on. You can hear it clanging as you head into your chambers. Do you sleep in the main house where the warden was?
Yeah.
The barracks. Okay. You make your way up the creaky wooden floorboards into your bed chamber, and just exhausted, man. It makes sense. You just kind of like you doze, and you fall into a honestly like a fitful, not patience level nightmare fueled sleep, but you fall into just sleep where just like it probably happens a lot with the stress of watching over a chaotic settlement like this. You just revisit all of your decisions in your dreams in probably bad ways a lot of
Yeah.
times. What are the rest of you guys doing?
Adriel's plan was to get some breakfast in Jace.
That
And
sounds
then,
great. Jace is about that.
Yeah, and then once that was done, and we kind of like had a minute to, I don't know, do whatever he needed to do in town. I was imagining, and this is what I mentioned to Patience and Loenthrin, is I imagine that I've got a place that I go to sometimes to kind of get away from civilization over by the lake, and like there's like a group of trees that I've dangled things from with ropes that I used to like practice, and I pitch a tent over there.
Okay.
Toad is hopping around.
Toad.
Okay. So that's where you head, Adriel?
Yep, I'll take him over there to the place where I like to hang out.
Okay.
Jace, Yuki, and Baron are going.
Lots of place, lots of room for the horse to graze and run around if he wants.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Kellen?
Kellen will join them to get something to eat, and then after that, he'll head back to the temple to probably do a service or something, to kind of explain the virtues of do the of not to ending up like the executed.
Okay. All right. So, excuse me. You guys get breakfast. I assume you go to the Lock and Key, or you go to your own private chambers. Adriel, and get food there.
I'll probably go to the Lock and Key.
Okay, you go in there. It's busy. It's packed. I mean, there's a ton of dwarves in there, and all the sailors that have come off the ship. Because there's more than just the dwarves that I pulled off there. There's quite a few, probably 20 other men milling about, getting food and drinks and lodging. You guys can put yourself in the inn if you want to, if you can even find a room, and that's kind of how it feels, anyways. It's this building over here, just so you guys know. You see Gadspear. He's actually sitting on one of the tables. I'll put him over there. He's got his own bottle. He loves his bottle that he's refilled multiple times. Jace, you've noticed he has his own private stock that he fills it with. And he's telling he's telling a loud, humorous tale about a Brendoran woman, and I don't know. We'll just say it's very saucy. And he has the men sitting around giving a laugh. They've all heard the story before. You've heard it as well, but they love to hear it as well. The innkeeper, she stands there and she has a kind of a stern look on her face as she's watching this wildness happen in her inn, but she doesn't move as they go about. As you come in, though, sure enough, she looks over and yells over the clamor. Getting something to eat, Adriel? I'm sorry, I got a better voice for her. Getting something to eat, Adriel?
She'll just hold up 3 fingers.
All right. She quickly scurries into the back, and a moment later comes out with 3 deep trenchers full of lukewarm stew.
My favorite.
Yes.
I pressed some bread for all of them.
Lol.
Yes. Sounds delicious.
I will move the toad appropriately. There we go. Okay. All right. So you guys sit in there and eat.
That's my plan, unless somebody else wants to leave.
You're over there. Let's see.
I'm actually going to roll to see how good his performance is.
Is there anybody in here other than the dwarves like concerned about the jaguar that walked in? Am I getting like gasped or anything?
Oh,
Being
well,
like the
I
dirty
didn't notice.
sneak out?
I didn't notice you pulled your cat in there because, sure enough,
The toad is very concerned.
Move back out here if there's something going on here.
yeah, Mrs. Hulkers. This is what she looks like.
Is there like a sign you like no animals or like?
Well, it's just kind of assumed.
No
I don't really
jaguars
think-
allowed.
You,
Okay.
yeah. As you
Alright.
start to walk in, she, her eyes go wide. Ex- every time a new ship comes in here, she walks over there. None of your critters. I don't care if it's a mouse or an elephant. Out with it. I won't be cleaning up its dung.
As you wish. I apologize.
Just wait until the orphan hears about this. Ah.
Probably already knows.
You've never seen her before. You don't know her. She doesn't know you.
Toad's gonna like kind of climb behind his beard.
So what kind of performance is this?
It's comedy. It's not oratory. He's
Okay.
telling like I said, he's telling the humorous tale. He does all the voices better than I actually do, and he goes about and almost every single one of his stories he tells. Jace, you already know this. Ends with either it's usually sexual innuendo. Most likely, it's a penis joke, or someone being surprised that there's a penis somewhere where it shouldn't be, and everybody laughs. It's hilarious. I personally don't know. I don't know any penis jokes, so I can't tell any, but it's great. It's just body humor. Okay, so yeah. In fact, I'm going to say, Adriel, as much as you don't want to, you actually find it quite amusing and spit out some stew at the end of it, and are just a little bit embarrassed.
That's cool. I like it.
Actually, you're pretty body too. Maybe you're not embarrassed.
Yeah, she doesn't have a filter of much. Not quite as bad as Patience, of course, but
Yarp.
Halfway through hearing the same story as he always does, Sir Strace looks kind of annoyed at all this, and he steps out to get a little fresh air. Lights up his cigar one more time on the torch by the door, and he leans there just kind of staring at Yuki.
He's probably staring back at him.
You guys finish y'all's stew.
I will.
awesome.
Oh, no, my bad.
Hey, there's no chunks in this. It says at least 3 chunks per bowl.
Damn it.
Well, Jace, you mind sleeping on the ground tonight, or do you want to sleep in a bed?
I have my pack. I don't have to sleep on the ground.
She just nods. And Kellen, you need anything?
No, I'm fine myself.
All right.
I actually
think-
hadn't thought of where I'm actually living on this island.
I think I'm gonna head to the lake. Show Jace around.
You could easily stay in the temple, Kellen, if you don't have a place, or you could stay at Fort Bloodrime.
All right,
Until you
yeah,
buy a
I can
place.
not stay in the temple. It's like a cot or something. No, I'll be at the temple if anyone needs me.
She just nods and stands up.
Glad to see you're doing well. Take care, Kellen.
Oh yes. May the light shine upon you. You should stop by the church sometime and catch one of my talks.
I'll be sure to do that.
Kellen will nod and stand up and probably head out after finishing. Then
As she leaves, Adriel will she'll try to be discreet about it, but she'll about how much she's leaving. She drops 5 silver for the bard.
Okay. Man, he's drunk, but quicker than any drunk man should. Before anyone else can see it, he whips it up off the table,
Cool.
and he gives you a big flashing white smile.
Awesome.
Strange to see one so far from home as yourself, but I can't do much talking because I'm in the same boat, or I was until just an hour ago. My thanks. He looks at you. I can. Do you have your glaive with you?
Oh, always.
Okay. A glaive warden, I see.
Indeed. I don't run across many this far west who know anything about the homeland.
Well, not many people out of the chain libraries have known much about yourself, but I read a book or two or hear a word here and there about those on the other side. Again, my thanks.
And well met.
Aye.
He just nods politely and starts heading out.
Okay. As you're leaving, you can hear him say, "That reminds me. Did I ever tell you about the?" He starts telling a story about a Geldian. They don't even know what Geldians are.
Golbrain?
And Galbrain. Yeah, he doesn't even know what you actually are. He just bluffed. A Galbrain. Yeah, he starts speaking of Galbrains. Some story about, I don't know. It ends with a penis joke too. As you head up, and we're
Chase puts the gold coin in his cup as he walks out. That's him on the back.
he lifts up his bottle to you and Adriel, and he shouts out, "I hope you'll be back for our lunch drinks. I don't want you to dry out either."
We'll be back
Okay, and-
probably. Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No. After you.
I was just gonna say we'll probably be back tomorrow. Sounds of it. Not sure how far away this lake is.
All right, and you guys head out.
And he
To the
winks,
lake.
but you can't tell he winks because he's only got one eye.
Are you blinking or winking? Okay, and Jace mounts up on Baron, and you guys begin to make your way to the lake.
And he'll put his falconer's glove on and whistle for the bird. Whistle for fallen.
Okay, well, with a
Left
sturdy
behind.
perch, it lands upon your glove, and you head off into the wilderness of Bloodrime.
Obviously, Jace offers a hand to hop on the horse if you're willing, unless you want to walk.
Sure, if there's room for 2.
Either is. Just point us in the right direction.
Cool.
And it's probably not the first time you guys have ridden double saddle, and you guys
sure.
begin to head off.
Awesome.
So you get to your spot at the lake. We haven't talked about this metagame, so is it just kind of like
was-
basically like your camping spot?
Yeah, basically. It was an idea I had like after the game started. I was imagining it's basically I stop by my hut, grab my pack that has a tent, and I just imagine there's sort of a clearing and some trees, and in the trees I've got like suspended by ropes, just random pieces of firewood that I can use to kind of spar with and train.
Okay, and you kind of just spend the day there with your old traveling companion and start a campfire at night.
That was the plan, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So just give me a sec. And Patience, you said you're going back to your hut. Kellen, you're going back to. Okay, cool. Okay, Lewinthrin, you meditate, you sleep deeply. Going over through these almost like borderline feverish dreams of all the things that happen, all the stress that's on your shoulders when you hear orphan. You wake up.
I go to my door where I presume somebody's whispering to wake me up.
They're actually standing right there, so we are just gonna pop it open.
Oh,
There you go. Right. There's not much of a door here anyway. You could have added one. I'm fine with adjusting that in the future, but regardless, you see one of your men standing there.
I swing my feet over the side of the bed and look at him. What news?
Okay, as you look through the door opened, because this is pretty much all opened, it's just kind of a balcony. You see that it looks almost like maybe early evening, late afternoon. You got company, and he ain't taking no for an answer. I didn't let him into the fort, but I don't think he's going nowhere. He might just turn himself into a rock at the front door if we don't do something.
Go invite him in.
He gives a nod. Sure. And he heads over, and I'm sure you know where this is coming, or what's coming from this. So just give me a sec. And before too long, coming around the corner, you see Sir Strace just looking around at the place. And as the door opens, are you at the table?
Yeah.
He sees you at the table and looks at your man, and I'm sure this is an invitation to enter your home.
Aye. Come in. Let us speak together.
All right, he goes to the door and he actually takes his boots off and sets them by the door, and just all of him is well put together. Even in his travels, his socks are holeless. He walks in and stands by the fire for a brief moment, and he looks over at you. My apologies for interrupting your time to yourself, but no one ever came, and I wish for lodgings. I'm very tired.
My apologies. I intended to come speak with you myself, but the day got away from me. I
understand.
I do have a cabin arranged for you in the town proper. I'll take you to it myself. If you have time and a desire, we can speak here in private before we head that way. But if you're tired and want to retire now, I can take you there as well.
He pauses for a moment and doesn't quite look at you. Then he looks at the door. A private conversation with a strange relic this far away from its homeland. I'm sure there's many interesting things you could tell me.
Probably at least a quarter of them will be true. I smile and nod to my man outside, kind of giving him the nod that he can close the door and leave us in peace. Although, actually, Llewellyn, like, everything about him, he's going to try and give, the appearance that he's comfortable, but he's really actually not.
And Sir Strace is obviously not comfortable either, especially when you joke about not telling the truth. But he knows how these things go. So you look not comfortable and you're uncomfortable, and he's uncomfortable, and he shows it outwardly. He stands there rather awkwardly for a moment, but he composes himself as the door's shut. I'm just going to make your dude disappear.
And I gesture for him to join me at the table, and I get up to find there's probably some wine or something that I can pour for us.
Okay. As you pour him a glass, he thanks you and acts like he politely puts it to his lips, but he doesn't drink it, and he sets it back down. I don't take you for a fool, and I think I'm right in not doing so. It takes a strong mind to keep something like this together, especially in the chaos that is the Ulth Sea. Your hospitality, it warms me. I hope you know that.
I'm glad to hear it. These are dangerous days we live in. On this island here, nothing else. We just hope that it can serve as a refuge for those folk who want to call it home. I realize you're just passing through, but you're welcome to what we've got as well.
Well, I think you're wise enough to know it's more than just passing through for one such as myself. To pull me away from the mountains, It takes more than just a fancy to trade spirits and tobacco. It is a strange time, and it's hard to trust anyone. He reaches into his jacket and he pulls out what looks like a scroll and sets it on the table. I've been looking for you, orphan. That and your men. Don't worry. My days of bounty hunting are behind me. I don't like your kind. I don't like this town, and I'll be honest with you. I'm not comfortable being here, but I trust you enough not to let to put a dagger in my men's back.
I look down at the scroll and I look him in the eye and say, hopefully on both sides of this exchange, no harm needs to come unnecessarily.
I give you my word. I'll leave before I bring harm to anyone here, especially to the common folk here. You seem to be a good enough steward of your people, and I respect that. But good.
I've been truthful in everything I've told you so far. I can't always say that's the case with everyone, but it's true here. And no truer thing will I tell you than this. I never set out to be the leader of this island or for the life that the fates have destined me to. I've simply followed along the path as it's laid out. It served me well enough, but it's been quite a journey. And I just reach out to pick up the scroll.
Okay. So, he watches you closely as you unfurl it. So I am going to share something in the group real quick. It is not a scroll. It is a map. Okay. As you unfurl it, it looks like you recognize it from the landmarks and the writing on there. This is obviously a map of just the heartlands of Pyrea, of the main continent. As you look it over, you recognize on the east, that is Pyresia, and if you look at your main maps, you'll be able to tell this. The desert between mountain chains, the south is Minusia, and you see several well-known landmarks there: Titan Tier Lake, Chame, the Zoske Desert. And as you look at it and probably look a little confused for a moment, my path has also brought me to a place I never thought it would. I didn't lie when I said I've partaken in bounty hunting, bringing in criminals for the justice they deserve. And though I'm sure you and just about everyone else here on this island could potentially be facing the gallows in some nation or another, that's not what I intend. I come here, and by Zedras, I hate saying it, I need a favor of someone that's not tied to any of these, to any of the alliances, as unshaky as they are. We have a great problem, and it's not just for Grunder, but that's why I come, for my nation.
Sir Strace, honestly, I can't think of two people with less in common than you and I. But do you know what the true definition of civility is? It's respecting one another despite our differences, not merely associating with those like us. Tell me more of this favor that you need. I will be listening intently with open ears.
All right. He looks a little stubborn when you say that, because he definitely doesn't like being here, man. But about 6 months ago, men on the western borders, they noticed Courseland was more active than it ever was. The grass was changing. The poisons were thickening in the air. The waters were killing all the animals around. And those that didn't die, They were birthing foals with 2 heads, and their babies, their babies, the younglings,
baby.
the younglings weren't born with a single breath in their lungs. The poison was spreading, and none of us knew why. It took our scholars a while to find out. He looks around. Can you be sure? Can you be certain that no one else is listening? This is information that I cannot divulge to anyone that is not involved.
I look him right in the eye and I say, the only people who could even possibly be in earshot here are the very people that I'll recruit to help me on whatever mission it is I think you're going to try and send me on. No, you can speak freely.
He looks at you for a moment, and he gives a nod. Those scholars, while pouring through the great libraries in Lundyhole, they found something that has been hidden, and not just by secrets, but by powerful magics. There was a sigil created by our old one, Arabior, 300 years past after our old Argus fell, to keep Corsland from spreading to our lands. If it weren't for him, there would be nothing left. We don't know much about it because it was so secret. But what we could find out was there was a powerful relic created to stop the corruption from spreading.
Has this relic been stolen now? Is that what explains how the corruption is now spreading?
All we know is it's not where it was, and even the place where it was enshrined to protect the land is a secret even to myself. Arabior, while he's still I'm gonna say breathing, he's still there. But like all the old ones, he slumbers deeply, and we've yet to been out to wake him well enough to tell us. From our own experimentation, we found that there's no way to scry upon this. There's no way to find where it is. Every attempt has nearly killed the mages who've looked into the balls to find it. So we know that it's completely immune to divination. What the other thing? Hold on, sorry. 6 months ago, it disappeared, and only recently we've gotten any hint at where it's at. He taps his finger on the map. One of our speakers to the gods, a great priest of Londyhole, was given word as he reached out and prayed. As cryptic as it was, we've determined it's somewhere in this region. We're not sure exactly where, which one of these countries it's in, but because of these alliances, we've sworn oaths not to go into these lands. We can't tell them the secret that we seek to have them look themselves. We need an outsider to go and get this.
Obviously, I've sworn no such allegiance, so presumably me and those with me would be free to travel.
Okay. Go ahead.
If I'm reading the seriousness of the situation, I think what you're telling me is the fate of the entire world rests on us finding this relic and returning it to the place where it was able to do the good and keep Rackboil's dastardly outcomes from spreading across the entire land.
Aye, you hear it true. This artifact must be taken back. We have to find it. Right now, porcelain spreads slowly, but if it's destroyed, it will break like a dam, and it will be all across the lands. Grunder will be no more, and will be forced to go back into the below and find a new place there.
Seems the fates have laid another unexpected treasure at my feet. He says with sarcasm. The seriousness of what you say is not lost on me. Tell me,
I'm
what
sure- Go ahead.
what else can you share? What it sounds like you don't have a ton of information, but surely there's something more to go on.
The cryptic message that our priest was given is as follows, and he actually takes the map and writes this on there. Excuse me, writes this on there in Anor. He points at the mountain chain by Chame. This was known to our ancestors as the giant spine, and Chame was rumored to be one of the first cities. The rolling dunes can't be naught but this, as he points to the Zoske Desert. And we can only assume those strange wind-worshipping fellows to the south. That's where the wind blows from. The only thing we can think of is in one of the in the lands here, and we can't be sure which.
Aye.
We can't divine it, and we can't search for it, but we're desperate. If someone else finds it, he slams his fist into the table. We don't even know if it can be destroyed, or why they would take it, but there's no other reason. It was made for our lands and our lands alone. We don't even know the true power of the thing. Maybe it does more.
Who else knows about the significance of this? How far is this news spread?
Not even my own men know about it. But but with the secret finders that have been sent out recently to even our own courts, we do not know. I don't know if someone else is looking for it right now. But it needs to be brought back to Grunder.
Lutherans, especially over the last 4 years, kind of tried to sharpen his skills at being able to read people. I think holistically, he believes this guy. But is there anything? Does it seem like he's leaving anything out of his tale, or he doesn't strike Luthern as the type to conceal stuff? But he also strikes Luthern as the type. If he is concealing something, it probably would be written all over his face.
You can roll sense motive.
Oosh, I'm gonna re-roll that with a hero point.
You don't have to re-roll with the hero point. I'm just gonna let you take it as you will, which is what I would do anyways.
Yeah,
There's no opposed roll here. Man, it's a weird thing for this guy to be at your doorsteps. It's a weird thing for him to be sending you out to find this artifact. So I'm gonna let you take whatever. Just determine how Lowenthern feels about it.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good call. Lowenthern says, "This is quite a mission that I think you've asked me to partake on." And
so is this whether you ask me what we're gonna do to pay you?
I look him right in the eyes and say, "Believe it or not, I wasn't. Although that is a valid question. I was actually going to ask how you think we might traverse these lands. It's easy enough for me to tell you here and now, and you know it's true that I'm neutral and an independent actor in these things. But we might come across the paths of some who might not see us as such. How can I travel these lands freely? How can those with me? How best can we go about finding this artifact what are we supposed to tell people if authorities were to waylay our path?
I'll tell you this much. I don't like doing this. In fact, I despise it. He looks really, really mad. But some of the Parisian performers that you met with me, they can make you some passports for Pyresia. In Shame, there are great libraries, one of the greatest in the world. If we can get you there, with enough time and research, you may be able to find out more than we know. No magic is able to touch what this thing is, or its direct properties, but perhaps hidden away in these libraries, somewhere in the back somewhere, I don't know. I'm not a scholar myself. Maybe you can find out something that might help you. We can get you these passports. There's a man on Port Liberty right now that is waiting for us to come back, hopefully with someone to teleport outside of Chame. But besides that, I don't know.
Well, you're in luck, good sir. I do love books.
Ugh, he spits in the fucking fireplace and explodes. He just like, I cannot say I'm not surprised.
Back to the question you thought I was going to ask. Now is a good time to ask it. Aside from saving humanity, what's in it for us?
He definitely wrinkles his nose at this. What do you ask of me? What can I not offer in the face of certain doom? I did not come. I came here with no gift, like I said before. You ask it, and if I can do it, I will. As long as it breaks no oaths, or shatters none of these poorly written alliances that fall by the day. What do you ask, Ondo Anton?
I might ask a couple of things. The first is that I might need time to think about what might be truly appropriate recompense for this most dangerous of all missions. But in the short term, I might just ask that you and others like you who might seek to stretch the long arm of your laws here to Port Liberty and to Bloodrime, steer clear of us and let us continue to operate as we will. In the meantime, let me speak with those closest to me. I can't commit others to this quest. If you truly knew my story, you'd know I'd tell you true that this won't be the first time that I've pledged myself to a mission. Indeed, I might need the span of 3 Ondoantoans to truly fulfill the commitments I make to folks. But what you ask is noble, and it's the sort of thing that I can't say no to.
If you do this for me, I give you my word that Grunder will harbor no ill will to your nation, and will declare you in our own laws as sovereign. But that promise was already being fulfilled before it was made. If you throw a boulder into the sea, it sinks. We have no jurisdiction or concern for these islands, as long as they don't affect us.
And we don't mean to affect you, I'll put it that way. No. I feel there's much we might learn on this journey. We can speak more of payments later. After all, if we fail in the mission, payment will be irrelevant anyway, right?
Aye. That it will.
My friend, if you have anything else to share, or you think of anything else to share, by all means, let me know. Otherwise, you've given me much to think on, and I must gather my allies. It's a meager island, but I continue to press upon you. The hospitality is at hand. They're yours for the taking.
He stands up with that, and he holds up the wine glass that you gave him. I know you'd probably find this hard to believe with my companions, but this will be the first sip of alcohol that's passed my lips in 50 years. He holds the glass up to you. I hope that you can do this for us, because otherwise, all is lost. And he holds up a glass to cheers you.
I pick up my glass. I can't remember, out of character, I can't remember exactly what it was, but in almost the exact same wording that I promised the great old one that if it was in my power to find his daughter and reunite the peoples, I would do it. I offer the same pledge to Sir Strace here.
All right, you're in the working for two old ones now. He holds it up. You clink your glasses together. He takes a drink, and he gives a nod. Perhaps in another life, we may have been direct allies. I think you have a good heart. I see I know this life is hard here, and the decisions aren't as easy as they are in the courts of Londihall. Thank you for your time. And he gives you a very formal nod. Or a formal bow.
I give him a formal bow in return, and I reach into my pouch, and I pull out a dozen rounds of my alchemical cartridges that I've made for my handgun, seeing that he carries a 6-shooter on his hip, and I toss him a dozen rounds. Sign of goodwill.
He looks them over. What's your total bonus to alchemy? Just out of curiosity.
I have a +8 on my rolls.
I think you might actually be better than he is. As you pat them to him, he looks them over. Where did you get these?
I look him in the eyes, and again, completely truthful, defying his expectations, I say, I made them.
He looks at you and squints one eye as he gives a approving nod. Well then, I bid you good night, Winter's Orphan. And at that, Sir Strace turns on his socked feet and walks across the floor, or across your wooden floorboards to put on his boots, and he heads off into the evening.
And on his way out, I say, speak to any of the men in this place on your way out. Let them know that you're going to be staying in Adriel's hut tonight, and they can lead you to it.
Okay. All right. With that, I think we are going to wrap it up for the night.